Recording in progress.
Good evening, everyone. It being 7 o'clock and a quorum present of all boards present, I'm going to first call this May 27th meeting of the Plymouth Planning Board to order. This meeting is being held in person and in hybrid format. Those who wish to attend virtually can do so via the Zoom platform. The information to connect is available on the town website. At this point, I'm going to ask the North Plymouth Steering Committee to call their meeting to order.
So I'm going to ask Lauren if we have, there's three of us here now representing the committee, to see if we have any additional members on Zoom.
You let me know which names you're looking for.
Vincent Strassel or Maureen Hickey.
Maureen Hickey is present. I'll ask her to unmute.
So that being the case, that has enough of us to open the North Plymouth Steering Committee for this meeting.
Thank you. Now I'll ask the Plymouth Center Steering Committee to open.
Hello, Harrison Quinn, Plymouth Center Steering Committee. Our committee does have quorum tonight, as we have 4 in person, and I believe we have 1 virtual. Is there Eddie, Carl on Zoom?
Eddie Carl is on Zoom. I'm going to ask him to unmute himself.
Great, thank you very much.
We're getting some feedback, so
Eddie, if you would like to speak throughout the meeting, we'll just ask that you raise your virtual hand and I'll unmute you again.
So the first item on our agenda is that we're going to skip the administrative notes for the planning board and go straight into the presentation to the joint boards. So we have an informal presentation tonight, and I want to stress what that means. When we say an informal presentation, what that means is technically there is actually no application before the town to consider at this point. What we have is we have someone who has a proposal who is providing information for the community. So this is the first of multiple steps tonight, but we are thankful and appreciative that they're willing to come in and talk and give us their thoughts and processes and hopefully hear ours. So Lauren, if you'll do the honors.
Thank you. So my name is Lauren Lind. I'm the Assistant Town Manager for Planning and Economic Development for the town, and I'm just here to set the table for you. I'm going to pass it over to the team at HYM Investment Group. This group has been engaging the town with interest in redevelopment for what's known as Benny's Plaza, the address 179 Court Street. This project, the site being just on the boundary line between the North Plymouth Village Steering Committee area and the Plymouth Downtown Center Steering Committee, we thought it'd be suitable to have a joint meeting of all of you together so that we could have an opportunity for feedback. This group was before a joint meeting of the Select Board and the Planning Board very recently, again, informational to provide opportunity for feedback. This project will require a special permit through the Zoning Board of Appeals. So as Mr. Chair Bulletin reference, there will be a lengthy process ahead once we have received permits. We have not yet. So this is an opportunity for the community to listen to what they have to say, provide some feedback. I will note that the proposal before you tonight, the group has been very receptive to feedback already. They have heard what the community's interests are, and those are feedback from staff as guided by many of the long-range planning initiatives that the community is currently working on. Those include the comprehensive plan, the housing production plan, and the community health impact planning program that the Center for Active Living is really spearheading. So I just want to note that they've already been very receptive to feedback, but I'm sure they're happy to hear your thoughts tonight. So I'll turn it over to Doug Manns from HYM Investment Group.
Great, thank you. So, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Board and the steering committees, thank you very much for hosting us tonight for this informational gathering. So my name is Doug Manzo. I'm a partner with the HYM Investment Group. We are a Boston-based developer, primarily develop in the greater Boston region, particularly senior housing. I'm joined by my colleague Seamus Joyce, who assists me on this project, and we have a larger team. So just first, really excited to be here and definitely looking forward to getting additional feedback. So we're here about 179 Court Street, which is the old Benny's Plaza site. And we're going to do a brief presentation, but obviously we're going to be able to answer questions as well. Right? So I'm going to click the button. Here we go. Many of you are familiar, but this is just showing the aerial where the Benny's Plaza site is. Again, the address is 179 Court Street. We do not own the property yet. We have it under agreement, right, from the current owners. And just going to zoom in. So this again just shows you it more quickly. This is also the site of where Piappi's Liquors is as well. The Benny's Plaza main building is completely vacant at this point. So we're really here proposing particularly a senior living community as a core use of this, but also after, really interacting with the town quite a bit, we'll also have a mixed use component up in front on the Court Street side too as well. But just really taking a step back. So again, HYM is the local developer. We're teamed up. Our joint venture partner is Next Core Group. They basically own and operate senior living communities and medical office buildings, hospitals across the country. We're working with them on 3 sites for senior living communities right now in Massachusetts. They have an operator called Experience Senior Living. They are the operator, would be of this, particularly the senior housing component of this project. And then the architect, TAT, local-based architect. And we can answer more questions about any of these groups as we go through it. Again, HYM, just give you a sense that we are a local Boston-based developer. Don't need to spend too much time on this, but just to let you know, we have done senior living before. We actually opened up last year the Newbury at Brookline, which was a senior living community that includes independent living, assisted living, and memory care units. So it's very similar use that we're proposing here. And we've done some other cool projects too. We actually built the Bruins training facility in Brighton, Massachusetts, which is pretty cool. But just a number of projects. So we've been around for over 16 years now, so a strong track record. Next Core Group, again, they're a national-based company, and we've really been tasked with them of building out several senior living communities here in the greater Boston region, but strong sponsorship, long-term owners, really looking to continue to build their senior living portfolio that they already have. And then again, this is a little bit cut off, and actually pretty hard to read, so my apologies. So, but again, what we're proposing is a senior living community that, again, will incorporate independent living, assisted living, and memory care units, approximately 184 units in total. This is not a nursing home. This really is, a community where people can really age in place gracefully. Independent living units are a core component of it. Obviously, some people want to age in place where the assisted living units come in. And then we also have a small component of memory care. And so it's kind of a continuum of care, which is really important. This is an amenitized building, right? So we do have 24/7 staff on it. We do have a nurse on staff 24/7 too as well. But we do provide, there's dining rooms. There is a centralized kitchen that provides meals for the folks that are living here. It's pretty robust services. We have a lot of activities. And this gives you just a sense of some images of some of the other senior living communities that Next Core and Experience Senior Living have done elsewhere in the country. So as we were looking at this site, we definitely approached the town and started to have some discussion. So first and foremost, the goal was that we really were thinking about the main building really being located towards the back of the site. Some of you may know that the site actually slopes down from Court Street pretty quickly. There is a grade change there. So the goal was really to place the main building really towards the back of the site. But in discussions with the town definitely want to, Piappi's Liquors, by the way, is staying, right? So they're not going anywhere. But the goal was to really have something more of a mixed use kind of component up front. And I'll show you that in a little bit. But there was also a request for more of a, an open space that could be more public in nature too, that kind of would coalesce around the front of the site. So there was just some key things that we were looking at, again, trying to keep the building farther from the neighbors towards the back of the site, and then create something even more dynamic than just the senior living community itself, which we think there's a great need for in the town of Plymouth. And this is just kind of jump into it. And again, as the chairman said, This is a preliminary plan, right? Again, this is just the beginning of the process, but we've been pretty consistent showing this. So you can see the senior living building in the back. It's kind of a two-component. The right side of the building, the kind of the C shape or the inverse C shape is 4 stories. It does step down to a 3-story building as we go towards Nelson Street, so that's very important. I have some renderings I can show to you. You can see the Piapis, if I have the, nope, no laser. The Piapis building is kind of to the left there. That's going to stay. You can see the 2 black outline buildings up front. Those are meant to be mixed-use buildings. So those are meant to be 3-story, small buildings that are 2 stories of residential over ground floor retail. Again, so kind of continuing the street of retail ground presence. And then what we got really excited about in talking with the town is, can we really create a gathering space? And that's what you're kind of seeing in the middle, which is this open space, which is kind of has 3 components, right? So to the right, there is a grass open space area that's meant to be a gathering place. There's also a dog park, and then we are showing 2 pickleball courts too as well. This is meant to be a public open space that can be shared by the community. Our goal is really for the retail to kind of spill out towards it. Not only our residents coming out, but actually the neighborhood coming to as well to this place, which we think is really important. And you can kind of see the drop off and then the turnaround area for the main senior living community. But that just kind of gives you a quick sense of just the overall site plan. This shows you a view from basically from Court Street. So you're looking from, as if you're looking towards the old Benny Plaza, you can see the 4-story building that steps down towards the 3-story building towards Nelson Street. You're getting a view also of this kind of 3-story, mixed-use building up front, which would have 2 stories of residential with ground floor retail. And you're kind of looking into the open space area. So you can kind of see the blue of the pickleball courts just to the left there. Behind it is a dog park, and then the landscape area is to the right. This is a very early preliminary rendering, but again, just to kind of show you the sense of scale and how it looks from Court Street. And then this is the view from Nelson Street as it slopes down. So again, you can see this 3-story building portion from Nelson Street, and you can see it stepping up behind it towards the 4-story portion. So I will go back, and again, that's probably a lot very quickly, but just, want to at least give you a quick overview of it. And we're definitely, happy to answer any questions regarding the overall project.
Thank you. So what I'd like to do, with the permission of the steering committees, is to open it up to public comment, to ask so the public can go ahead and give their comments. So again, this is a preliminary plan. You're going to have plenty of other opportunities tonight to speak about it. So I'm going to ask that if you have interest in coming up and speaking, come up to the microphone, ask to be recognized. We'll recognize you. I'd like you, if possible, to just give your name so we have that, and where you live. I don't need a specific street address, just anywhere, where you are in Plymouth, if you're in Plymouth or not in Plymouth, just so we have an idea as to where our comments are coming from. I'm also going to ask, we follow a 3-minute time limit for public comment because there's going to be other opportunities. I'm going to ask that people stick to that 3-minute time limit. Is there anyone who would like to speak or have questions regarding this? Please come forward.
Hello. My name is Angela Regner. I live
Can
in
you just
Plymouth.
make sure your mic is on?
Hello.
Yep,
Better?
there you go.
Okay. I'm Angela Regner. I live in Plymouth, over past Red Brook area. I wasn't planning on speaking about this particular issue, but I've been working for 21 years as a physical therapist, and I work in home health care. Part of one of my jobs was to work specifically in ALFs and ILFs, independent living and assisted living. Question I have is affordability. I work in an area where the patients really need places to live that are affordable. And unfortunately, in my experience, most of these places are not necessarily built for people who need the place to live that they can afford. The people who can afford these places tend to be people who can afford other help. So as someone who works in the community, I work in Plymouth, Carver, Middleborough, Buzzards Bay, Onset, Wareham. That's my community. And I've actually worked in Boston and Natick and Framingham and Needham and Wellesley and all these other areas. So my concern as someone in the community who works with people in their homes on a daily basis is affordability. It's just like, is there a thought to make even a portion of this a place where people who wouldn't be able to afford such a place might be able to actually have a better standard of living as they age.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else wish to come up and speak? Lauren, is there anyone online who wishes to speak?
If anyone participating remotely via Zoom would like to speak, please raise your virtual hand and we'll recognize you. I'm not seeing anybody. The raise hand function is at the bottom of the screen, if you're unfamiliar with it. Seeing none.
Okay. So I'll ask you to go ahead then address the affordability question that was raised.
Yeah, so this would be a market-based community, right? Again, that's something that we've heard that comment before already come up in previous meetings. I think as we get into the more formal process, something we can have further discussions of. But again, I mean, these are definitely, high level of care type communities, and high levels of affordability are very challenging to make work, just to be honest, right? Type of thing. Some key facts more just to share some additional things. About half the residents come within a 15-minute drive time, right? So the majority of these people will be actually already living in Plymouth, right? They're looking to stay in Plymouth, right? A good chunk of the other half are actually parents of adult children who live in the town too. And that's been pretty well documented, just for general demographic information. Our average age tends to be very high 70s or low 80s, right? So these are folks that definitely are no longer looking to live in their homes, right? Or looking for something that they need more care options. They definitely want to age in place type of thing. But so they're also looking for the services. So this is the one thing I want to say, this is definitely not just a housing model. This is definitely a care model, right? And so that's just something important to point out as we think about the cost of services and the rents here type of thing.
Great, thank you. Question to staff. So as a care model, as a senior living facility rather than, does this fall within our inclusionary housing bylaw?
It does not.
Okay. So for the residents, for people who don't understand what that jargon means, is we have what's called an inclusionary housing bylaw. That means that for housing, if you over a certain number of units, 10% has to be affordable. This is not considered housing. This is considered services. And we can't dictate what somebody charges for services. It's the same as if someone built a hotel there. We can't tell them how much they can charge for a room. Now, I am correct, and I know I asked this question before, but you're a for-profit entity, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Right. So the reason that has an impact on the town is a not-for-profit entity does not pay property taxes. This entity would pay property taxes as well as business personal property taxes. So in terms of revenue generation, it will generate revenue for the town, which will certainly offset any services that we have to provide. So those are certainly some of the concerns that I know the residents have raised for me. At this point, what I'd like to do is I'd like to first turn it over to the Plymouth Center Steering Committee, and please ask your questions.
Hi, my name is Yada Momini, and I live at 21 Nelson Street, which is, I can see the back of the Benny's Plaza. And there's a lot of views in our community, and I've been trying to sort of have everyone just table their thoughts until they get the whole picture.
Yep.
Because, for example, we don't have a perspective on what the tax revenue to the town will be from the property taxes in the business, which if you hear that, it might help the community know the value add to the community. So when in the process, so I have a lot of questions like that. When in the process of this discussion are those kind of details going to be talked about? Because if it's premature to talk about that, that's fine. That's the first part. And then the second part is, in the model that you've discussed, are there some elements that are flexible from a business perspective from yours? So for example, could you consider higher density and a smaller U in order to get more parking for the mixed use? And do you have to have pickleball courts and the dog park
Nope.
for your, so a lot of the things, it's really understanding your business requirements so that we can understand what part is flexible and inflexible, because ideally, a lot of the neighbors would like to just have parking and green space, but realistically, you're going to have to spend money to be able to develop that space, and it's costly, so we recognize that. Thank you.
Yep, no, so, great question. So I can tell you, so I think, I'm trying to remember if we had an estimate of real estate taxes yet. I think we can check on that, but the answer is we can have that definitely when we start the formal process, right? So, as was noted, these are market rate for-profit type buildings, right? So they'll be paying full tax load, right, type of thing. And obviously, being a senior living community, we're not adding to the school-age children. Very little demand on services. Traffic, trip generation compared to other uses tends to be less, than that type of thing. We also have great data just on emergency services. Now, we are a 24/7 staffed facility, right? So people are always concerned about emergency services and, being a big burden. There are already a couple communities that exist in town, right? So the fire and police are used to what the call volumes are, but we can have more details on that, right? So I would definitely tell you this is going to be a net positive add for real estate taxes, even when you account for some additional, burden on emergency services. That's pretty typical. So I can tell you that parking was a big topic of discussion previously as well, too. We've gone back through, we will be providing over 200 spaces of parking, right, total. We will meet each of the individual categories based upon what the parking requirements are in town without getting into any kind of shared use or anything like that, right? So we definitely have heard that parking is a very big concern, so our perspective is we think we're going to provide more than ample parking, but we will go through the details of actually every single use that's being proposed, what the town of Plymouth requires, and be able to show that to you guys as we go through it. So for the open space, I would say, two things. We're really thrilled about the centralized open space, right? Because again, we think it provides some really good amenities. Dog park is really important from our perspective, right? So we probably about 25% of our residents will own dogs, right? It's a pretty high percentage type of thing. And so they also like to go because it creates a gathering place, right? And not just for our residents, it's for anyone in the neighborhood, right? So it's a way to bring dogs and like be there. It's actually really good for the retail too, because it's becoming a destination for the retail, right? That's going to be there as well from our perspective. The central gathering space is a great place to hold events or just have people gather type of thing, Pickleball courts, I definitely have heard, some people are like, well, no, like our residents, some of the independent living really like pickleball, right? I think there's probably more flexibility around that type of use. But when we go through this, we'll be talking about the uses for this centralized space. But the idea we didn't want is just like a lawn area, right? We want to make sure that there was more than just grass, right? The idea is to really have activation that brings people to the site. And then having this mixed use component from our perspective is pretty important. So we are trying to be respectful with height, going from 4 stories down to 3 stories to Nelson Street, right? Type of thing. Originally, I think we were thinking we were a little bit nervous about height. We're like, well, do we do all 3 stories? But we already ran into the same thing, which we had to make sure there's enough parking too as well. So that's why we have the 4 stories and 3 stories. It's great to kind of hear the comments back from the community too as well. I mean, I don't know how much more spaces we gain by the whole thing being 4 stories, right? But we're also trying to be mindful of keeping in character with the, the neighborhood and that type of thing. So I think we're open for those discussions. So definitely flexibility around the open space uses. I don't think we're looking for 5 stories or anything larger than that. That's just not something that's really from our perspective. Again, we're a care model, so the 4-3 split really works for us because again, it allows staffing to be efficient for the number of stories we have. As we go higher and the floors get smaller, creates more staffing requirements. And so we're trying to find the right balance between the two.
Okay.
Yep. Correct. Yep.
Target market does not require pickleball, but it's a nice app.
It's a nice to have, right, type of thing. But I would say the open space and the dog park are probably more important from our perspective.
And when you talk about community space, I'm assuming you're talking about the outdoor community space,
Correct.
nothing indoor.
Correct.
Just bear with me, this is all new.
No, it's perfect.
So
Yeah.
just trying to get
Yep.
level set.
Yep.
I just leave it. Oh, I don't talk like you're on a, sorry, I'm thinking I'm on a sat phone, sorry. When you're talking about the mixed use, bringing people in, you're talking about the 2 buildings in front. There's not going to be any mixed use other than the 2 buildings next to Court Street and Piappi's,
Correct. Yep.
or single-use Piappi's, but
Yep, correct.
3 commercial buildings. Okay, great. Thank you.
Two things. My name is Lee Filson, and I live in Plymouth Center. Two things. You talk about the mixed-use space. A lot of the neighborhood has families, and a lot of these people will have grandchildren. Will there be any playground equipment or anything that could accommodate children in those spaces, public spaces?
We haven't contemplated, I mean, so again, this is part of the forum to hear comments from you
But
guys.
it's something that you would consider?
I think we could take it back to Experience Senior Living and talk with them about that too as well. Again, I think the goal is to find the right mix of uses in this open space, yeah.
Okay, but you said you would take it back. Has it, with your experience and all of the many places that you do these, is that something that is in any of them?
So typically, again, most of these have been standalone, right, communities, right? So they still have an open space component, but it's more geared to the senior living. This is a little bit of a different concept where we actually have these mixed-use buildings up front and are more embedded in a neighborhood. So typically, we have not had children's playgrounds. I'm not saying no, I'm just saying, like, you're asking about the experience in the past. So Newberry Brookline, for example, does not have a playground, right? It's across from a park, right?
Okay,
Across the street
because,
type of thing.
I mean, they're older, they have grandchildren.
Oh.
That's the only reason I ask.
No, well, and again, it's a good comment, and we'll definitely take that under advisement.
Second question, on average, with your experience in these types of facilities, what is a monthly charge to live there, on average?
So again, the rents haven't been set yet, but again, there is a benchmark community, there's another community end, right? So again, with the care model, they could be, pretty high, right? But they haven't been set yet. So I don't have a good answer for you tonight.
But on average, for one that you know of?
So yeah, again, assisted living could be 8,000 per month or up, just, being clear, right? I
Okay,
mean, it's, you
that's,
guys-
I just wondered what's
Yeah.
the average?
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
again, I think this is an important we talked about before. This is not a housing model, right? It's more
Right.
of a care model, right? Because I think some people don't, they really, and they hear that and they hear like, well, how do I afford that type of thing?
Yeah.
Again, a lot of these folks are, well into their late 70s or 80s, right? And so people will ask us, right, well, how are people affording this, right? So a lot of people are actually literally selling their homes.
Well, and I understand it also includes care, it includes meals, it
Correct.
includes nursing, all of
Yep,
that. So
yeah.
I'm not being critical, I'm
Yep.
just curious.
No, it's a good comment too, because to go back through the uses too. So assisted living basically gets 3 meals a day, right? We have a commercial
Yes.
kitchen in the building, right? We have several dining halls. Memory care obviously gets 3 meals a day type of thing. It's a secure facility, right, for mom and dad type of thing. Independent living is not 55 plus housing. People kind of get confused when they think independent living is like the 55 plus townhome. It's actually a much more, they're living in 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, but they're at least taking 1 meal a day, right? They're actually getting active programming and services, there's a gym on site type of thing. And so it's a really good point to just be clear about what this type of thing is. And typically what happens is people are, they're selling their home or they have assets and they're spending down their assets, or again, adult children are helping support them because, this is not a solution for everyone, right? But it's definitely part of the market as what they're looking for the demographics.
Thank you.
Yep.
I think this is a great idea for the area. It's a blight right now, and I'm a product of Nelson Street. I grew up, so I'm very, very familiar with the area and the wetlands that are behind it. And I'm assuming you will be building, of course, within the wetland regulations. I don't know if the existing building complies right now. It was built quite a while ago. I think it's great. I don't think it should be a magnet for everyone. In other words, a dog park, absolutely. But I don't think we should be saying this is a dog park for the whole town. In other words, the residents that are living there should have the privilege of using it and their friends. But I don't think we should advertise it as such. But on the bottom line, I think it's a great idea for the area, provided other provisions are in place.
And so first, go to your first comment. So we will comply with all, current wetlands regulations. Obviously, you may have seen this, but we did go and we're already doing an ORAD to just determine where the wetlands are. Most of them are off our site. They're adjacent to us. They're not on our site. But we will comply with all wetland regulations. We are also working with the town of Plymouth. There is a major drainage line that goes through the site and goes beyond the site onto the adjacent athletic club property. We'll be upgrading that drainage line, right? So it's pretty old too as well. So, but definitely be a much better situation than what currently exists today on the site, as you guys have experienced. So, and then again, I think our goal here is this is really a neighborhood park, right? If that's the way we envision it, right? It's part of the, it's another option for the neighborhood, right? You know, or the town of Plymouth, right? We're not trying to, you know, it's like the balance. We're not trying to create a major gathering space, right? But we do know what helps retail work too is people like to get a cup of coffee and be able to go sit outside, right? Or it becomes part of the neighborhood, you know, kind of fabric. So that's kind of really our goal. What we're also really excited about our residents, again, some of them don't have great mobility, but the ability to get out and right to their front door and be in a place that brings, you know, families or children or other people coming in or other dog owners. I think that's what they're really looking for, social interaction too as well. So we're really excited about the ability to kind of create this special place that's really a neighborhood pocket park is probably a good way to say it.
Thank you.
You good? Hi, Harrison Quinn. So you mentioned the two mixed-use buildings at the by Court Street. There would be retail on the bottom, and then top two would be residential. Would that be retirees as well too, or
So-
would that be open to anybody?
That would be open to anyone, and that would be subject to the inclusionary housing, you know, so I don't think we have a unit count on that. You know, again, it's two smaller buildings, right? But if we make it, there's 20 units, right? 10% of those will be affordable, right? Because they're not age restricted, right? Again, it was meant to be more of, if we're doing mixed use, you know, how can we pull in different age groups, you know, or people that are looking to, you know, be in North Plymouth.
Okay, so you're ballparking maybe 20 units in some level in that area.
I'm trying to, 15.
15, and then 10% of that would have to be
Yeah.
affordable.
So it'd round up to two, I
essentially
think.
two.
Yeah, I think it becomes two.
Would they be 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom? What are we looking at?
We haven't decided the unit mix. That would be something that we come back with type of thing. But I think the idea is that it would include 1 and 2 bedrooms at least. But we haven't set the unit mix yet. But that'll be part of the process. Will be very defined, so you guys know.
Okay, because I would hope to be a part of that discussion. I've had conversations with many of my neighbors. And I can see my house in that picture as well too. Family members are leaving Plymouth because they can't afford to live here, but they also haven't aged up to being able to be in a retirement community yet. So I feel that the more we can do to help all generations would be more beneficial for downtown. Another question I have is, you mentioned like long-term, this is good for Plymouth. And I agree, like blight is not great at Benny's. And I don't think anyone likes looking at that any more than I do. My concern, and maybe you can kind of alleviate my fears here, is I have a 3.5-mile commute from my house to my job. And this would be the 6th retirement community that I pass. Are we overwhelmed with retirement communities in downtown? Is there actually like stability to have that many 55+ retirement communities in such a small area? What's the long-term play? Is that actually going to, you know, last a long time from your point of view?
Yeah, so I mean, I think, you know, there's no question we're all living, like the demographic, I mean, we're probably not even scratching the surface for the amount of demand that's coming at us, not just current, but as we more age, right, you know? So the demographics definitely lead to it. I can definitely tell you, at least for experience, senior living, we always lead with demographic studies, right? Because again, they're long-term owners. Like this has to last, you know, 15, 20 years, right? Not 5 years type of thing. So I can tell you the amount of analysis that goes in to make sure that we have the right data and the right growth projections is really important from their perspective. That's kind of number one. Number two, it's also like, again, senior housing has changed quite a bit. You know, the current seniors are not looking to be off in the backwoods. I mean, there's some people that like that, right? You know, and kind of isolated. We're definitely finding that the new growth of seniors, they want to be more in the community where they are. They want to be more interacting. They also want to make sure that their daughter or son will bring the grandchildren because it's easy to go to type of thing, right? And so they're looking for more walkable neighborhoods, right? So I can tell you we've done a lot of analysis that we definitely see this as a great long-term place from our perspective. And the demographics just generally just support that too as well. So we think we have the right location and the right demographics just generally. So from our perspective, we're very confident on the demand.
Great. So again, just like we already, I'm going to kind of recap just so we're all clear. One, the mixed use will be residential, and there will be affordable options there, and it will be for all generations, correct?
Yep.
And long term, you see this being a net positive for the town, both in tax base, but also it's not going to then become blight in a couple of years because we've oversaturated with retirement communities. Great. I agree that people look forward to having a walkable neighborhood, and we have the rail path there, we have the beach, we have the park, all of that. Our committee can talk extensively about traffic issues on Nelson Street. I mean, from my own personal bias, when I walk my 4-year-old down Nelson Street, I'm holding onto him with both hands. And I'm terrified because people fly up and down that road, that he's gonna get hit someday. Now, granted, you're not the police. I'm not expecting you to issue tickets, but I'm wondering, like, what are you doing to alleviate traffic or the worries of having too many cars in such a small condensed place?
Yep. So, well, a couple of things. So we've already started. So part of the process, we do a full traffic study with the planning department, right? So we do the study and everything. Again, of uses that could be here, right? More commercial based or other types uses. We're one of the least traffic generators, right? I'm not saying it's not, it's obviously gonna be more than what you're experiencing today because nothing's happening there today, right? Maybe when Benny's was really full, it probably would generate more traffic than we would generate, but so that's just kind of one, right? Also, we do have, team members and employees that work, I mean, it's a care community, right? But they work on hospital shifts, 7 to 3, 3 to 11, 11 to 7, right? So they're not usually hitting the peak times. No one in memory care is driving. Obviously, assisted living, very few drive, if anything. To be honest, they might bring a car, but then the car gets picked up by the adult children pretty quickly. Independent living, yeah, they are able to drive, right? Type of thing. They're like other typical seniors, right? That are, but we'll do a full traffic study to at least, show you what the potential impacts are. But again, I think the benefit is that for the amount of energy and community that you create here, you have some of the least impactful traffic at the end of the day. So, and that's kind of, where the town, that's, the right to review and confirm that, but we'll be doing that in detail.
Sorry, thank you. And also, I think it may not have fully explained myself. Are you concerned of all the amount of pedestrians who will be entering the area?
Well, so, no, it's interesting. Well, again, so we're actually, so when we started this, we were not really thinking of the mixed use component. So credit to some of the folks that we met in town that really kind of pushed us to, really think about Court Street differently and everything. Again, the community we're trying to create, we want that pedestrian traffic. We want that interaction, right? That's what our residents are going to be looking for too as well, right? So that I think that's, from their perspective, I think that's very important, type of thing. But again, as the comment was made before, we're not trying to make this the new Main Street either, right? This is just a part of Plymouth, right? And it's a bit of a, an eyesore today, right? And how do we make something better out of it and make it something more than not just for our residents, but for, the neighborhood itself. And so I think that's the goal we're trying to achieve here.
All right, one more question, if that's okay. A lot of the houses on these streets were built for 4 cars, mine included. So parking is weird, to say the least. And sometimes people use the overflow lot on Nelson Street there as a way to just manage their lives of having a car. We're very car dependent. So, I understand that you want this to be a community and open for people around, not just for the people who live there, but are you also comfortable with people who don't live there parking their car there occasionally?
I would tell you, I don't think any landowner would be comfortable with people parking on their property. Right? I'm just being honest, right? Yeah. So it's not something that we've made accommodation for, right? I mean, we've been definitely clearly told we need to make sure that we accommodate all of our parking needs at the end of the day. We think we're going to have definitely quite a bit of robust parking. So we're not spilling out into the streets type of thing. There's also a mixed use nature that at times at night, the retail will be closed at some point. But I don't think we're willing to commit to allowing parking on the site. I think our first goal was like any, business, we make sure that we're accommodating all of our parking. That's important. There's definitely a lot of challenges from insurance perspective and things like that and liability, right? Again, the front part is a retail, mixed use plaza, right? People will be going there to go to the businesses type of thing and parking there, right? It's not, we're not putting up parking gates or anything and controlling who's going to be there or not. But, people randomly parking overnight is going to definitely attract the attention of the management group, type of thing. It's just about safety too as well. So I think and that's an honest answer. It's, it's kind of hard to suggest that we're going to be able to do something, more than that.
As you look at the follow-up benefits from a tax revenue perspective and business activity, which is important for growth, in your typical other assisted living, independent living, memory care facilities, do you find that the people do have families come in and bring them out to lunch and walk around and spend money in the communities?
Yeah, so so there's no question, at least with, we definitely like to be in walkable neighborhoods or neighborhoods that have retail, right? Because again, the son or daughter, when they go see mom and more dad too, for all of us, right? So which is good. We're all living longer, but a lot of things they do is, first thing they do is take them out of the, the community and go somewhere, for lunch, right? or go for a quick shopping trip or something like that. So, not so much here, but we've had great success being close to a Whole Foods or like a shopping center, because the adult child goes shopping, all right, or goes sees mom and dad, and then goes so it's, people are looking for more convenient choices, but also our residents they don't want to be stuck and, where they have to go 25 minutes to go get a cup of coffee. They want to be able to have one of their children pick them up, or one of their friends pick them up too, by the way, and go to a restaurant or a coffee. So I do think this is going to generate additional activity for Plymouth.
Also for the elderly, the activity that bustles down there with children and carriages and the activity.
Yep.
My mother-in-law, who lives across the street, enjoys just looking out her window and watching the things happening.
Yep.
And there's a lot of positive benefit to senior citizens. Yeah. So appreciate that.
Yeah, so Seamus reminded me too, so we did do an initial estimate just on the senior housing building. It's likely over $800,000 a year in annual tax revenues when it's built, right? Again, we'll have, as we go through the formal process, we'll have that, but, and so that gives you a sense of just the base level. That's not counting any of the 3 retail buildings in front or those. That's just the main building, so.
Eddie, would you like to say anything, just to make sure that we're recognizing all? You good? Yeah. All right. Anyone else in the Plymouth Center Steering Committee who'd like to ask a question? All right, we'll cede our time back to the planning board. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Just curious that you give the $800,000 number, because I was following up on something else today, and I was told that, so there's a proposal or potential proposal for a Costco coming into town. I'm told that that generates less than $250,000 in tax revenue a year. Just,
We may need a new tax consultant now on our side. No, sorry.
it's just the numbers are quite different when we think about that. So and we know which one's going to generate a lot more traffic. So interesting comparison. I'd like to turn it over now, of course, to the North Plymouth Steering Committee.
There we go. Eric Dykeman, North Plymouth Steering Committee. Quick question, a project of this size, how long would the construction take from site excavation to occupancy?
Approximately 2 years, right? That's approximately 2 years.
Okay. And do you know how many people would end up working at the facility?
We, not off the top of my head, but we can have that information back to you as well.
Yeah.
And it varies obviously from the stage of construction. Peak construction workers tends to be when we're doing the interior fit out and finishes, right? But I'd be shooting too much from the hip, but we can have more of a detailed number on that.
Okay. And do these projects tend to be union or non-union? We have a lot of craftsmen people that work in town and do a lot of.
It's a great question. Look, so HYM has done $2.5 billion worth of union work. I would tell you it's heavily located in Boston, Cambridge, and Somerville, right? More in the, the urban areas. Typically, it's not union down here. We're not precluding it, right? But just, again, most stuff probably built in Plymouth has been open shop, unless it's municipal or city or state government.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. And with the mixed-use facilities in the front, you mentioned 15. Would those be 15 apartments or condos?
I think we're thinking apartments, right? Again, I think we haven't finalized that, but most likely it'd be apartments.
Okay. Would the potential of having the rent control referendum passed this year, would that impact your thinking in terms of apartments or condos? And I ask that because I know sometimes landlords under the rent control situations tend to put off upkeep and some of the maintenance, and I'm curious as to how that might impact.
It has not been a discussion yet because it's a small number of units, to be honest, right? I will tell you this is more just from not to go a higher level, from an industry basis. We do a lot of projects across the Commonwealth right now.
Right.
Rent control has definitely spooked equity coming into the state. We compete nationally for equity partners, right, on projects. It's definitely spooking. There's deep concerns about, I was here when rent control got repealed in Cambridge, right? And there was a lot of examples of, buildings that were rental that were getting no upkeep type of thing. So I think it's a little bit different now, but we haven't, I don't think it's enough of this. It's such a small component, and the rent control doesn't affect our building because it's senior living community. But so good question. But I think, We're leaning to rental, but we haven't had that discussion yet.
Okay, great, thank you.
So Kevin Leary for the North Plymouth Steering Committee. So a few things. And I know this was talked about when you met with the select board, the two front buildings, it's obviously hard to tell exactly how far they are back from the sidewalk and so forth. And I agree with, I don't remember who brought it up, but to just maybe, if they're not already back about 15 feet from the sidewalk, and put some landscaping out front. There also, there might be the fact that you're gonna have some retail or whatever on the bottom floor, so you might be able to invite people in off the sidewalk simply by doing that.
Yeah, so first of all, when we go through the more formal process, we will have more zoomed in plans even for the presentation, so that's been brought up before. They're definitely already set back. You can see the property lines in red and there is a distance. I can't tell you exactly what that is. Also, I mean, this is generally conceptual design. We definitely also want the retail to have outdoor seating too as well, so it's not just, sidewalk and hits the building. But we are thinking about, well, where do we want that outdoor seating, right? Some of it might be on Court Street, some of it might want to be towards the open space type of thing. But I'm glad you brought it up again, because that was a comment that was brought up before. So we don't want to have the buildings feel like they're on top of the street. But we also want them to be set so far back that it doesn't, keep the street wall or, the continuity. So there's going to be a balance there. But we'll be able to talk more about that specific dimension as we go through.
Okay. So just on the overall plan, the height doesn't particularly bother me, because if you know the lot, as you said, it does slope down quite a bit. On the right-hand side, that adjacent street, I forget the name of it, but McKinley, that's up pretty high. So
Yeah.
that's going to shadow the height of that side of the building. And then secondly, it's obvious when you drive by either side on Nelson Street, there is trees and whatnot, but it's fairly open over there. By putting two buildings on the street, the middle one is going to cut up the view a little bit. And I think that if anything, when you get into your planting vegetation plan, my personal opinion, you could actually give up a tiny bit of vegetation in that, the back right-hand side and so forth, and put a little bit of money into some higher plantings on the two streetscapes. Because you virtually could, by the planting that you have lined up there, you could shade that whole building from the street, if in fact that's what you want to do.
So one thing I would say is that when we come back with the more detailed plans, landscaping will obviously be a focus for the ZBA and the planning board, right? And definitely, we'll come back to the steering committees too as well.
Yep.
This is definitely a conceptual plan, right? So there'll be, a bit more robust landscaping. So again, we get a little nervous about going higher just because of operational efficiencies and things like that. But to be honest, it's good to hear that feedback. I know that there's other concerns about parking and other things, so we'll take that into advisement. But I appreciate the comments.
I just think it could fit into that lot quite well myself. And so another thing, on that back area, I know you're familiar, well, at least I think you are, familiar with that there's some wetlands back there. When you were at the selectmen's meeting, I don't know who was with you, but you were talking about, the engineer was talking about the flagging back there and so forth.
Correct.
Because he defined that wetlands. But not too far from your back lot is the Seaside Trail. So I'm not familiar with, I looked at it in the beginning when you were going over it, but I haven't looked at it to see who owns that adjacent property or what parts of it, to see if you could in fact get an access to the Seaside Trail through there.
Yeah, I could tell, we definitely know that it's all privately owned. I can't tell you exactly who
All of
owns
it?
it. Yeah, so it's not owned by, you can see our property line where it stops. I know the athletic club on one side owns a portion of it because that's where the drainage line goes through that we'll be upgrading on behalf of the town. I can tell you definitely the conditions out there for the wetlands are not great because right now most of it's just sheet flowing off the parking lots into the
Yep.
wetlands today. So again, going back to the comment earlier, we'll be adhering to new wetland regulations, which I think be important. But we've heard the comment about connecting to the Seaside Trail. I just think we don't control the property that gets to the Seaside Trail.
Yeah.
I think that would be clear from our perspective.
Okay, and the last thing I have is I don't know if you've had the chance to actually walk through Benny's, the old store, but if you did, if you went inside and walked around, you'd notice that the floor undulates about 3 or 4 inches. So it's just the fact that you're going up 3 and 4 stories. I think it warrants, simply because the building's going to be there for quite a while, it warrants some real close attention to the amount of water that's running underground there. I don't think it's hard to take care of that. I think it's just something that you have to know about before you proceed too far with your engineering.
No, so again, we went through a due diligence process before we put the site under contract. We did a full geotechnical study as well as an environmental study. Good news, we're not doing a basement here, right? It'll be a slab on grade, as we call it. We're likely going to be doing some ground improvements. There definitely is a lot of groundwater running through the site,
Right.
type of thing. And as you said, there's been settlement over the years type of thing. But yeah, we'll be carefully engineering that to make sure when our building doesn't settle, not just the building, but also the parking lot areas as well as, again, we are going to be doing a major upgrade to the drainage system that goes
Yep.
through. And that really should hopefully start to take care of the issue because I think some of the issues is just, it's an old shopping plaza. It's definitely been neglected. And you guys have definitely seen the current status of what's happening
Yeah.
there. So, but yeah, so, and again, I mean, we're long-term owners, and so we want to make sure definitely we don't have an undermining issue in a short period of time, so.
Okay.
But we have some sites that also have 2 to 3 feet of undulation, former sites that we've been
Yeah.
addressing, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before Everett speaks, Lauren, could you ask, or could you see if Maureen Hickey wants to ask any questions?
Sure. Maureen, if you'd like to speak, you're unmuted now.
I don't have any additional questions at this time. I think I'll have more as we go, get further into the process.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Everett Malaguti, Vice Chair on North Plymouth Steering Committee. I did watch the presentation when you had this before the joint boards of the Select Board and Planning Board. I do echo some of the similar concerns that Mr. Harrison does for the parking, especially because of the congestion of housing on Nelson Street where there's very little parking alone. And I did echo that during the joint meeting as well too. I would echo as well too that I think having the units up front as the apartments being as rental, because then we can include all of them as part of the subsidized housing inventory instead of just 2 of them. And also, one question I do have is when you do bring this forward in your plans, if we could have a possible rendering of what the look would be from Water Street. And that's only because you're having the 4-story component of that. And we have some buildings on Water Street that are massive compared to other buildings on Water Street. And we want to not look as an entire wall of housing blocks, just so that people are a little bit happier with some of it because they've been unhappy with some of the other housing that's happened on Water Street due to the height that's been there. But one I do want to emphasize is the actual aesthetics of the building. When you do actually come before formal plans, I think that making sure it's a fit within the characteristics of the neighborhood. I'm not saying like you need to make it exactly like 1800s or 1700s look to it, but I think similar components to some of the buildings that are on Nelson and Court Street so that it fits in with the community, putting nodes to the history part of it, but not detracting from the neighborhood, because we've had not just buildings in the downtown, but also buildings in North Plymouth that have sort of stuck out from the actual aesthetic of the community that has been in there. And it's no fault of them. They've looked just done it as a business perspective, but since this is going to be a building that one is in a highly dense area and is somewhat looking down or up, depending on where about you're situated within the actual topographic area of it, I think having some parts of it that blend in to the community will make it a lot easier for people to actually appreciate the grandiose size of it compared to the rest of the neighborhood. I do think this is actually even though I would like more commercial myself, I do agree this is a good compromise for the area. This is sort of Plymouth's own, in a way, Village of Duxbury component. But I do think that having those aspects are part of it. And one part that was actually talked about during the joint meeting, and it's still in regards to parking, is just making sure that there's enough parking, not just for the retailers coming up front, but also there was a little bit of concern about the parking for PRPs itself, just to make sure there was enough for them to not just have their employees, but also to have their trucks come in, depositing all of their wares, and also the people that are patronizing the actual store.
Yep. So first of all, a lot of great comments. Again, so first, going back to design, I think, again, these are earlier renderings, but, again, one of the things that's key is that we do not like flat roof type buildings, right? And so that's something we don't think is in character with the town. It's also why we went with a 4-story down to a 3-story step down. You're also seeing some gable ends. Again, this is conceptual design. We'll have more refined design, but it really is meant to start to break up the building type of thing, right? Or pick up on some of the character of, what is in the neighborhood. It is still a large building, right? And so, but again, part of the process will be going through the design so you guys can really see it. And we can also look at other vantage points, Water Street and otherwise, just to kind of show before and after, right, type of things. We would get a good sense of it. Excuse me. So, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Clea Montanari, again, Plymouth Center Steering Committee. This area is called Cold Spring, and there is a fountain there. It's been there for years. Has any thought been given to preserving that?
Is this the yes, go ahead.
Is this the fountain that's right on Court Street, kind of where the retail building? Yeah, so this has been brought up. So one of the things that we're looking at is there also is a lot of utility connections in that area as well. So this is also going to play into the location of that building. So that's, to everything that Doug said earlier, there's a fine balance for keeping the, the streetscape aligned with the rest of Court Street, so it's aesthetically pleasing, also allowing enough space behind it if we want to put tables and chairs. But this spring has been brought up, and it's been brought up enough where I think we really need to pay attention to that. So I think we're going to investigate it and preserve or do whatever we can to accommodate what you need.
That would be very much appreciated.
I think North Plymouth is all set.
Very good. Thank you very much. So I'm going to turn that now back over to my board for questions or comments. Mr. Mann? I can come back to you, sir.
No. Yes, we had a bite at the apple during the joint meeting, so I won't go into any great detail, but one of the concerns that I've heard echoed tonight as well is this area surprisingly has a lot of interesting green spaces. There's the trustees' place, there's the Seaside Trail, there's Nelson Beach. And I brought it up before, and I hear you're reflecting on it. Any way possible, whether it's an easement or some form of plantings that lead people back and forth from the Seaside Trail would be very important. And the community itself is overall starting to address the notion of we have so many wonderful natural resources, and some of them are isolated, some of them are not connected. So this, in keeping with the comprehensive plan and the overall intent of the community now, would be a really good thing to do, and find some way to make that passage obvious and easier to connect to those wonderful elements we already have. Also, I didn't quite hear Mr. Malaguti, so I may be restating something he said. And also, Mr. Balton may correct me if I'm wrong in my understanding of the inclusionary rules. But if we have 25% rental units, even of those 15, then they would all qualify as affordable housing and work toward our 10% minimum, which, when we finally reach it, and I think there's an effort now to try to get to that, would make us exempt from 40B regulations or 40B penalties, let's put it that way. So if you have 15 units there, all you need is 4 that qualify for affordable for all 15 to be considered affordable toward that number. The 10%, in my opinion, is too little. That means we're not getting there. We're just treading water. So every chance that I see the opportunity to get more than that 10%, I want to stress that. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Grandy.
Yes, through the chair. I just have a couple of notes written down here. And I know we're going to have another bite at this apple when you come back before both the steering committees and the planning board, so I won't get too much into detail other than read off the list of things that I think need to be addressed a little bit and become a little clearer when you come back with a more detailed set of plans. Affordability was brought up. Solar, I think you really need to consider on this site. Building green, I'm sure you understand what that means, correct? And as far as the pickleball court, that's asphalt. So to me, I'd like to see as little asphalt as possible. Because as you see, when you drive through a Home Depot, you drive through a lot of our plazas, you look at a sea of asphalt instead of green areas like you're suggesting. So maybe that pickleball court, just a thought, turns into a field or something the kids can play soccer on. I've heard that pickleball happens to be a little bit noisy, so the residents in the area that are living there may not want to hear the pickleball court at 7 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock at night, as far as that noise is concerned. I think we want to enforce where these residents that are living here be able to go outside and maybe see kids playing soccer or a basketball game, not just pickleball. So kind of need like a mixed use field of some type, so you can interact with the residents that live there, with the younger crowd and children and et cetera, so it becomes a community, not just elderly people living there and people playing pickleball, so to speak. So I think it's again important to minimize the asphalt. Obviously, you need to set yourself up for the parking regulations that are in place. I want to ensure that as far as your deliveries are concerned going forward, whether it's at the bigger building in the back, that your hours of operation, as far as your truck backing up, going beep, 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 delivering with residents living around the building, where it's not a Benny's anymore. Now we can ensure that we work with the residents that are living there. Okay. Too much asphalt, trash enclosures.
Yeah, so we'll make sure the dumpsters are fully enclosed. And then the service for the main building is on the back of the building towards the rear of the lot.
And is there going to be veterans preference at all in the apartments up front?
So again, I think any affordable that's done, right, it'd be per town guidelines. I know in many towns there was 70% preference, which I think the state allows for local residents, right? But honestly, that'd be worked out with the town for what the affordable units can be for preference.
Right. That, and I'm going to lean the way Mr. Mann has mentioned. We're going to be seeing another proposal here this evening where there's an affordable criteria that's mandated. And we always round down. It's time to start rounding up instead of rounding down. So when you have, for example, 15 units, that's 1.5. Instead of rounding down to the 1, we should be rounded up to the 2.
It is rounded up to 2.
I'm just saying, the one that we're going to see later isn't rounded up, it's rounded down. So I want to see as much affordability as we can get here with this project. So we won't be hitting it with any 40B situations that are unfriendly, so to speak. And I'd also like to see some elevations all the way around the building from where the neighbors are living when you come back for your presentation. I want to see what it looks like. You're going to have to, I don't know how you're going to heat and cool this building without a flat roof.
No, so we have a dormer style roof, right? So there'll be wells where, major mechanicals will be, in the well, hidden from view, which is what we typically do. But again, when we go through that, you'll get elevations of each side of the building, more views from around the neighborhood too as well. And we can get more in specifics about where the mechanicals are.
Drought tolerant species.
Yep.
A little heavier on the plantings. Would be nice for the neighborhood also. So I didn't have the bite the first time. That's why I'm running a little bit.
Yep, no,
on some
that's
of those
fine, that's great.
things. You want to create a community here, that everybody's involved, not just one particular group in your overall design.
Yep.
And with that, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Grundy. Mr. Donaldson?
Okay, I'm gonna take a big bite because I didn't even get the nibble the last time. So I want to understand, as far as the pickleball courts, that's going to be open to the public as well, or is that just for the residents?
No, so the idea is those three green spaces are open to the public.
Okay, so far as a property owner, how is that going to be managed?
So we would be managing the space, right, in terms of like maintaining it, right, type of thing. There'll be definitely, like we've done this elsewhere in other projects, there'll be park rules, right? So at some point it will close at night, right, type of thing. It'll open up in the morning, again, but it's generally meant to be open, right? So that type of thing.
Okay. Will there be any upgrades to the liquor store as far as facade, or do you? Maybe I do not know the relationship and ownership between that property and what the building is, the property that you're doing.
Yeah, so Piappi's owns their own building, right?
Okay.
So we don't own the building, we own the land under the building, but they own their building, right?
Okay.
So
that's probably a no. Sorry.
I will say so the parking in front of them will all be repaved. There's also a sidewalk in front of Piappi's, which will probably have to get rebuilt. So there will be some, upgrades. The landscaping that you're seeing will probably happen, but to the point of, no, we don't own the building. That's the liquor store that owns the building.
the entire site around it will be upgraded and transformed as part of the redevelopment. But just more specifically, we don't control or own the actual building itself.
Thank you.
Yep.
Just
Understand.
aesthetically,
Yes.
as you know.
It's not lost on us, but.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
just, yeah.
And it won't match, but that's a conversation we can have with somebody else. We talked about the affordable housing aspect, so I'm in agreement in regards to rounding up or possibly getting more for the town's buck in regards to the affordability. When you come back, I hope that we'll have some numbers on AMI and things like that, if that's, if you're in that process. And the veteran preferences as well, if that's a feasible, reasonable thing that we can try to accomplish. I would also like to see some, if you are able to provide some information and data on the effects on services.
Yep.
And I would highly, highly recommend that as far as the retail space, that we look at possibly going to a small grocery store model. Right now, in my opinion, that area is what would be considered food desert. The closest grocery store is Shaw's up on Stop and Shop. I'm sorry. I get them confused because my wife makes the orders and I got to run to either one and I got to ask her first which one it is. So either I'm going to Manamet or I'm going to Centerville or I'm going to town. But Stop and Shop on Somerset. So I really think that will also enhance the community if you're able to maybe some kind of agreement for a smaller type of grocery store setting, like something that they have at the Pine Hills or in other smaller neighborhoods. Downtown Crossing has the Little Roach Brothers that's downtown in that area. I think that would be a huge benefit to the community and for this project. Yep, talked about the number truly. How many do you have an idea how many people will be on staff once it's completed?
So it varies by community, but, so usually a shift could be 30 to 40 team members, right? Particularly, the 7 to 3, 3 to 11 shift. So full-time, and so in terms of number of team members, we could have up to 150. Remember, we're 7 days a week, 3 shifts, right? But it breaks down, any given shift is probably 30 to 40 at peak. And then we have also office staff, marketing staff that are more 9 to 5, right? But I just give you a rough sense. And we can come back with more specific numbers for this community, but it varies. But that gives you a sense of it. So it's definitely a jobs creator, because again, this is a lot of care that's being provided. Plus, we have a commercial kitchen when we're serving 3 meals a day. So it's quite eclectic team members workforce that we put together.
And one of my concerns with that is for Plymouth, we have a majority of individuals that come into Plymouth to work, but they can't afford to live in Plymouth, or there's no affordability for them to live in Plymouth. So, of course, regardless, that's going to increase our traffic. That increases and throughout the area, people coming and going, whatever shifts it is and things like that. So that that concern with traffic and with parking and things like that. So it's my understanding as far as parking, it's going to be private based upon just what you're going to fulfill for the building. Has there been any thought in maybe some type of partnership that it could be some kind of public parking between the entity and the town, or at least the town could also have the opportunity to maybe even monetize some parking or shared parking. The park's right there. I don't know if that's been done before, or if that's something that we can look into or something that can be considered, but I understand I do get it. It's private property, but
Yeah, I think, the goal, so first, again, we talked about, first, the goal is to make sure that we provide enough adequate parking for our proposed use, right? And when we come back, I think we definitely are meeting all of the zoning requirements for each of the individual uses separate, right? So I think that's good news. It is going to be, retail, right? Which means people are going to be able to come and go, right? It's not a gated type parking lot type of thing. That's been the discussions to date. We haven't had any further discussions with the town about any other options, beyond that, to be honest. So.
all right. Yep. And that's all I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Before we go to Mr. Bennett, did we have somebody online who was one of the steering committee members who has raised a hand?
Not that I have seen.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bennett?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm not sure how much of this proverbial apple is left, but I'll have a small bite myself. Just a few things. I'm gonna pile on the affordable housing. If of any assistance or movement towards the town attaining our 10% goal of affordable housing will really go a long way with the residents and the boards as well. So just to if it hasn't been reinforced enough.
Yep. No, I
think
we have heard clearly.
I think you got the picture, right?
Yep.
Will there be any project phasing to this? In other words, are the retail and apartments going to be built at the same time afterwards?
So again, what we've been talking with the town, to be very clear, is that, again, we'll be building the senior living community and the entire site out at one time, including the open space, right, type of thing. We will need to, again, our owner operator does not build the mixed use buildings that are up front, right? So we'll be talking with more local developers potentially, build those out. We are committed to building everything out and making them pad ready and ready to go. Again, it's not something we can really tie the occupancy permit of the main building to the front buildings. But the idea is that the entire site will be complete though, right? It's just the vertical nature of those buildings. That's been a discussion the town has brought up in earnest. And so we've been having some serious discussions on that. So our goal would be hopefully everything gets built at the same time. But just that's where we stand today.
Understood. I would think that you wouldn't want empty sites in front of your.
Correct.
your
We want to
beautiful
feel as
development.
complete as possible and to get to it, but.
But we all know the economy changes occasionally.
Yep, correct.
So I do want to point out that as far as for those who have commented on the drainage and the wetlands and so on, that in addition to the Commonwealth's stormwater standards, which are actually pretty stringent, I work in that general field, the town also has its own drainage and stormwater management requirements, which are also pretty stringent. So I think, and I'm looking forward to seeing how your engineers meet the challenge of handling that stormwater, because basically everything has to be infiltrated on site, and no net increase, which I can see on this site could be a challenge with the groundwater. And I think that I brought that up earlier in the previous joint meeting. And I wanted to mention what Carl made me think of is that I don't know if, should you consider in your application retaining the possibility of leasing some of the spare parking spaces. Once you've met your need, some of the residents on Nelson Street may want to entertain leasing a space or something along those lines. However, that may or may not be an allowed use in that district. I don't know what district it is off the top of my head. And, I think that's something that you should consider.
Okay, thank you.
So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I noticed that the parking is throughout the entire site. And so it's difficult to tell what the pedestrian access is going to be like, but I think that's going to be very important.
Yep.
People coming in off Nelson, coming down from Court, and also to and from the open area. So I think that's something that needs to be dealt with a lot of attention so that it's clear, because if with your desire to have it be a public or partially public space, that it's inviting for the people who are pedestrians who are walking by.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great point. Again, as we get into more of the details, we want to make sure that there's clear pedestrian access, right? That feels welcoming into the middle of the site where the open space is, no question. So.
And that it's done safely.
Yep, correct.
It's,
yep.
Retail traffic in and out, other traffic in and out. I want to make sure that it's properly done.
Agreed.
That's the additional that I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank you again for coming this evening, for hearing the residents' concerns and for answering questions. And we look forward to working with you through this process and hearing more as you finalize your details. So thank you again very much appreciated.
Well, thank you for your time. We're really excited to be here, and we look forward to continuing the process more formally. So thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
This time, do the North Plymouth and Downtown Steering Committees wish to close their meetings?
This time, I'd like to accept a motion to close adjourn the meeting.
Motion.
So, thank you. So at this time, I declare the North Plymouth Steering Committee adjourned.
Very good. Thank you both for coming in this evening and for participating. It's been really very helpful and very enlightening. The planning board will resume in about 10 minutes. We're going to take a quick break. So thank you all very much. We're in recess.
Recording in progress.
Good evening, everyone. The planning board is back in session. This time, I'm going to move to our administrative notes. First on our agenda this evening, the planning board will approve and endorse a letter of support for the town of Plymouth's application to the Community One Stop for Growth Program's Community Planning Grant to fund the review and modernization of the town's inclusionary housing bylaw. Staff, would you like to give us a little update on that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we are actively working on submitting a grant application, as you just said, to the Community One Stop for Growth program for this exact purpose, which is to update the zoning bylaw section of the inclusionary housing section. And we would just look to get your support in submitting that application. Part of the submission to the state, it asks if there's any letters of support from municipal entities or other partners or community members. And so your support on this application would hopefully help our success with this.
Very good. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve and endorse and support the application.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? It is unanimous. So hopefully a unanimous letter of support will carry some weight.
We certainly hope so. Thank you.
Next on our agenda, we have minutes for January 20 of 2026. And were the May minutes not attached? Yeah, right. May 13th will come later,
Correct.
as I understand. Okay. So just for January 2026, questions, comments, corrections from the board? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to accept.
I have a motion to accept the minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Unanimous. Next, we have Form A plans. First, A4915, Michael and Theresa Withington, 76 Forge Drive, map 79A, lots 1A-15 and lot 1A-23. This is a lot line adjustment. Questions from the board? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to endorse.
I have a motion to endorse. Do I have a second?
Second?
Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Unanimous. Next, we have A4916, Mark Ritter, Long Pond Gold Corp., 0 Pebble Beach Drive, map 077A, lots 6-066 and 6-0665, a lot line adjustment. Questions from members of the board? Seeing none, I'll call for a motion.
Motion to accept.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? It is unanimous. Next, I have A4917, Sheridan Home Builders, Inc., 1234 State Road, map 49, lots 3A, to create 2 home lots. Questions from the board? Yes.
So is this, I didn't see whether or not these lots were being created to build 2 more properties or just
No.
to conform?
This is to divide existing, just to separate out the home lots from the
From the
multifamily.
apartments? The multifamily. Okay, thank you. Just want to clarify.
Yes. Any other questions from the board? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to accept.
I have a motion to accept the application.
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? Call for a vote. All in favor? Unanimous. Okay, we're going to move on to the remaining items of business for the evening. So we have 2 interrelated items, and they are done slightly differently, but we're going to do them together. So we have a public hearing for use area 18 in Redbrook, and we have a site plan review for use area 17. I'm going to start by making sure that everyone understands, there will be no vote tonight on these items. There will be no vote tonight. My members of the planning board have agreed that we are here to open the public hearing. We will not close the public hearing. We will continue the public hearing to a later date so that further comments can be heard after any changes are made. And in doing so, I'm going to, again, stress that this board has said in the past, and it's going to continue with this, we're not going to approve market rate without affordables, and we're not going to approve affordables without market rate. So everything has to be done at once. We want to make sure that market rate units aren't built without affordable units being built at the same time. And we can't require that someone build affordables and not get the offsetting market rate to do that. So everything is going to be addressed one way or the other at the same time, but it's not going to be tonight. But we will be hearing from people. So again, public comment will be open. So let me start by first reading the public hearing notice. The Plymouth Planning Board will hold a public hearing in the Great Hall, 26 Court Street, Plymouth, Massachusetts, on Wednesday, May 27, 2026 at 7 p.m. to hear the petition of ADM Agawam Development, LLC, for approval of a definitive subdivision plan within the River Run, also known as Red Brook, Traditional Rural Village Development, also called the TRVD or TRIVID. This is for use area 18 and the streets name Golden Meadow Court, Radiant Crest Road, Amber Sky Lane, and Solaris Lane for land located off Wareham Road and 193 Sandy Beach Road, Plymouth, Massachusetts, in order to divide land of ADM Agawam Development, LLC, to create 54 single-family homes located in a rural residential zone in Plymouth, Massachusetts, shown on Assessor's Map 115 as lots A44 and 1-41, and Map 120, lots 1-265 through 1-274, and lots 1-273A through 1-276A 73A, located at 0 Wareham Road, parcel 115-000-000A-44, map 115, lot A-44, map 115, lot 1-41, map 120, lot 1-265 through lot 1-272, 1-273A, 1-274A, 1-275A, and 1-276A in the RR zoning district. The petitioner, or his or her representative, or any other person interested in desiring to be heard on this request should appear at the time and place designated. Good evening, Mr. Gorsica.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Fellow board members, my name is Dan, and staff. My name is Dan Gorska, Vice President of Development for the 80 Makepeace Company. We are here this evening. This is for use area 17. Sorry, I should have said that first. But this is for use area 17. We are here this evening seeking approval for the use area pursuant to section 20572 of the zoning bylaw and previously approved master plan special permit. As outlined in the special permit decision, the project is intended to be developed in phases and by use areas, with each use area reviewed through administrative site plan approval for consistency with the applicable zoning bylaws, specifically the TREVID bylaw and the approved master plan special permit. The application before you this evening satisfies those requirements and is substantially in concordance with the master plan previously approved by the board. Use area 17 is in the village mixed use area. We are proposing a one-story multifamily building, which is an allowed use, and there are also no waiver requests for this use area. The allowed density in the village mix area is between 6 to 10 units an acre. Planning board may allow up to 15 units per acre. This particular area is approximately 8 units per acre. This slide just summarizes the ongoing discussions surrounding affordable housing and the future development within Red Brook over the past few years. Affordable housing and future use area planning have been discussed through planning board meetings, public presentations, and community engagement efforts in various forms over time. The proposal before the board tonight is part of the continuing planning process and reflects conversations that have been occurring publicly for an extended period. Specifically, I want to point out, Use Area 17 does not require a butter notification. This is an administrative site plan review. With that said, on May 4th, our company sent out a community-wide email informing people of tonight's meeting and offering people a chance to ask questions to us directly. Out of the 1,186 emails sent, 3 people responded. This slide provides an overview of proposed Use Area 17 affordable housing development within the broader Red Brook Master Plan, and that area is highlighted in yellow. The proposal consists of 2 stories, a 19-unit multifamily rental building, with all units income restricted at or below 80% of area median income as required. No waivers, no base density, or transfer development rights are being requested as part of this application, and the project complies with applicable parking and height requirements. Overall, the proposal is intended to provide additional affordable housing opportunities in a manner consistent with the approved master plan in the surrounding neighborhood context. This exhibit shows the proposed layout and site improvements for Use Area 17 within the existing village mixed-use area. As noted, the project consists of 19-unit residential building located on a site that is already largely disturbed and surrounded by existing development and infrastructure. The existing community garden to your left of the page will remain unchanged. Portions of the playground that exist there will be thoughtfully relocated near the community garden and the remaining playground equipment at Market Square, which is adjacent to the mail house and pickleball courts just south of the YMCA. Stormwater management for the site will be handled through a modern collection and infiltration system designed to integrate with previously approved infrastructure improvements in the surrounding areas. All the stormwater here will be collected on site and will remain on site. The project will be served through connections to existing Red Brook infrastructure already located within the area. Sewer, water, gas, and electric utilities will tie into existing systems along Sunflower Way and Wareham Road, minimizing the need for significant off-site infrastructure expansion. Overall, the project is designed to efficiently utilize the existing utility network and previously constructed improvements that already serve this portion of the community. Excuse me. Hold on one second. My apologies. This exhibit summarizes the parking layout proposed for Use Area 17 and demonstrates that the project meets and exceeds the applicable zoning requirements. While the bylaw requires 47 parking spaces for the proposed development, and when I say proposed development, I'm talking about the proposed building and the uses that are surrounded, including the meeting house and the restaurant. The applicable bylaws require 47 parking spaces. This plan right now has 64 total. I will note in the site plans that you guys were submitted, they note 62. There was just a typo there, but there's a total of 64. That calculation only includes what you see highlighted in yellow. It does not include any parking on Greenside Way South, any parking on Sunflower Way, or any parking that is in the perimeter of the village green. This exhibit provides the proposed architectural elevations and renderings for Use Area 17. As shown in the elevations, the building height ranges between approximately 33 and 35 feet at its peaks, remaining below the maximum height permitted under zoning. The architectural design incorporates residential-style materials, varied roof lines, covered entries, and building offsets intended to reduce visual massing and maintain compatibility with the surrounding village green neighborhood. Overall, the scale and character of the building are consistent with nearby residential and the mixed-use buildings already constructed with this portion of Red Brook. This is an isometric or a bird's eye view of the proposed Use Area 17 to help visualize how the building will fit within the existing village green neighborhood. The rendering illustrates the relationship between the proposed buildings, surrounding roadways, parking areas, community spaces, and adjacent resident buildings from a broader neighborhood perspective. It also helps demonstrate the scale of the project in context, showing that the building is consistent with the established pattern. The one thing that you cannot see on here is the Grantham project. The Grantham project is directly across the street in that wooded parcel. That building, along with the apartments just to the right of that, are much larger than this building here. Overall, the view is intended to provide a clear understanding of how the project integrates into the surrounding community and streetscape. It's important to note the townhomes that are just to the right, they're approximately 55 feet wide by 115 feet long and have 4 units. This building's 60 feet wide and about 165 feet long, so it's about 1.5 size the town of a townhome building. I just wanted to provide a general update on affordable housing at Red Brook. These slides summarize our housing commitment and the progress made towards fulfilling that obligation. Under the original special permit, Red Brook committed to provide 103 affordable units. That was later increased to 113 units as part of Use Area 15 approval process with the Grantham Group. To date, affordable units have been completed, occupied, approved, or are currently under construction throughout multiple use areas within the community. The proposed 19 units in the use area represent the final portion of that commitment, and upon approval will complete the affordable housing obligation established under the Red Brook Master Plan. I just wanted to touch on 2 use areas because they're newer and under construction. Use Area 15, which is the Grantham Group, that is under construction, active. Their anticipated occupancy is summer of 2027. For those that are interested or know people that are interested, they're anticipating a lottery to begin that process towards the end of this year, in December and January, for the lottery. And just remember, it's a lottery. We get a lot of requests, like, can I get on the wait list? You can't reach out to us as far as the wait list. When they go through the lottery, then people would be notified. The other one is Use Area 16. Those are the 12 units directly right off of River Run Way. The neighborhood's under construction. It's just about finished being gravelled now, set to pave next week. I hope I'm not saying something wrong, but the select board had it on the agenda last night with the local action unit application, which was approved and signed off, and now it's heading to the state for their approval. So we anticipate home construction starting sometime September or October of this year. That's just so people know, that is pending state approval. If the state takes 6 months, we're not going to start housing until we know that our plans with them are approved. I will not read this slide for verbatim. I wanted to point out again, I think our company in general for the last 12 to 15 years has been a huge partner in this community, and I think we've done a lot of great things. And I'm proud to be part of the company. I'm proud of working in a place where I live. And I just think it's always important to step back and recognize, with this help of this board, the select board, the community members, all of these things that we have created to date. And I'm looking forward to more to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. None to note at this time, other than some of the engineering comments that we received last week. Our understanding is that the town engineer is communicating with the applicant to work out some of those issues. Otherwise, staff would just note that the proposal does comply with the TRVD special permit otherwise.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gwester, is it your preference to move into the next use area or to have comment on this area first? I'm fine.
I would take your direction. I don't know if everyone's here for everything. If people are just here for this matter, maybe you just have this happen first.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
All right, so at this point, we're going to open up public comment on this use area only. So there'll be comment on the next use area as well, but we're going to open up public comment, and we're not going to close public comment on this. This will be available. Because we are going to continue this again to another meeting, I am going to again ask people, if there's people want to speak, we are going to hold you to the 3 minutes. If you really desperately need more time, you can request that the board extend for an additional 2. Again, because we have another meeting and we're going to be on the later side this evening after our first presentation, I would ask to be reserved on that. Does anyone wish to speak regarding this use area? Okay, we're going to start with the gentleman here first. And again, just please come up and give your name and roughly where you live.
You need to tell the microphone. Jeff Howe, 18 Sunflower, Red Brook. Here we are again. Some talking about putting a building where it doesn't belong in Red Brook. Just so you know, I do not object about this building because it's affordable. I have no objections. I believe we all need affordable housing in every community. It's just that it's a building that it just doesn't fit there. And so myself and others, and I'm like in a butter to the gardens, which are going to stay, I realize, but there's going to be a lot of density right there. So one thing that really bothers me is this building doesn't really serve the community. That area was supposed to be a future building, which I thought was going to be, I don't know, a hair salon, a bank, something that benefited the community. This building does not. It doesn't do any good for the community except create more density. So I understand we need affordable housing in there, but there's other places to put it. AD Makepeace has a lot of land around there, and I know that they can find another spot for it. Suggestions, I don't have any, but I know that this building does not fit there. It doesn't look right there. It's townhomes. We're not going to put a townhome up on Cranberry Farm Road. It doesn't fit there, and they're not going to put one of their homes where the townhomes are. So building does not fit. And I have other comments and objections, I'm sure, and I'll speak at the next meeting, but that's my biggest one, that it doesn't fit there and it's no benefit to the community. So that's all I got for tonight.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Sure.
This gentleman first, and then
My name is William White. I live at 5 Sunflower Way, and thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. A lot of my comments were going to mirror Mr. Howe's comments. Something that I do want to add, though, is I'm still not convinced that that parking won't overflow into the neighborhood, surrounding neighborhood. Number one. Number two. I think it's going to impinge on the restaurant parking, which, may affect their solvency. The reason AD Makepeace wants to build in that particular area is because it's flat and it's cheaper for them to build there. There's infrastructure there, okay? Haven't they made enough money off of this development? Do they need to jam that? Another apartment building right there? Like Mr. Howe said, they have plenty of land. They could relocate it someplace else. It just may cost them a little bit more, but why is that even a consideration? The affordable housing obligation was put in place for them to be able to build out the rest of the development and make God knows how much money. So, thank you for allowing me to speak.
thank you.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Randy Rahal, also in Red Brook. I abut the gardens and the proposed site. My wife and I are considered pioneers in Red Brook. We bought in here at the end of 2017, 2018. Mike Hogan was a good friend of ours. We moved here from Nantucket. We love the neighborhood, the closeness. 2 heart attacks. I needed to be near a hospital. My son's a doctor, and he said, this is where you should live. Nantucket's good for sunburn. My wife and I have run the garden and the memory garden, and she has handled the garden for the little kids at the YMCA for the last 7 years. I also started a group called Daffy Diggers, planting daffodils all over the property at Red Brook. We put in over 5,000 daffodils. So we're committed to this facility. What Jeff Howe said, that putting this in that section there makes absolutely no sense. My feeling is, when we bought in, we were told that a commercial property was going to go in there, and that was fine with us. In fact, I thought it was going to be the BID building, the Long Pond physical therapy, a bank, which actually was built, but not there. So it left that space open, which was fine, because those types of facilities aren't there 24/7. Those are commercial properties as businesses. They're in, and then by 7, 8 o'clock at night or sooner, they're out. This is a density addition, and it was never mentioned to us when we bought in 8 years ago. And it certainly would have had an effect on whether I was to move there or not. I would have waited and moved somewhere else. It's just that we need affordable housing. We're for it. There's got to be some place on the property that AD Makepeace owns that they can put that without shoehorning it into that spot. My suggestion to put into that spot would be a small real bank where you're talking to people. A liquor store would be a home run. And perhaps like a 7-Eleven or just a quick convenience store where you don't have cars and density addition, but you have services for the area, which is what we need. I guess that's my time.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Yes, please.
There we go. Okay.
See,
Thank you for letting me talk.
And he said it wasn't tall enough.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess I'm better being short, Jeff. I also have lived in Red Brook for a long time, before there were halls. Originally, that area we were told was going to be some kind of retail. I totally agree with that. The parking is a real concern over there. I live in a townhome. We have parking from the restaurant and all that. But that goes away. But now you're going to add all these people to that condensed area to then have to park. How many bedrooms is it going to be? Who's going to manage this building? The playground's going to move over to our area and the restaurant's right there. I know I've seen you, Mr. Bolton, at the restaurant. I've seen a couple other people. Do you want to be sitting out in the patio while the kids are playing on the playground? I love kids. I have kids. But I don't want to be sitting out there. I go over to Shaheen's to have a nice, quiet dinner with my family. It's great over there. And I really want him to succeed and be able to stay there. But you make it hard for parking there, people are going to go down the street. Sorry, I have to look back here. And just to outline the townhomes being issue with parking, because we have small garages. There's a couple, we all have 2 cars at least, and they don't all fit in the garages. And so we need that space, and there wasn't a lot of thought put into that, especially when it becomes winter and you're trying to get rid of the snow from the alleys, and there's no place for it to go. So please consider the parking. And also, you guys didn't allow the parking in front of Cranberry Corner when it moved over to the Market Square. You didn't allow the parking on Wareham Road there. And he's showing parking on Wareham Road, nose in. I know thinks that's a parking, it's a traffic calming measure, but you have not allowed that on that road. So please consider these things when you're thinking about this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Good evening. Vin McGuire, Red Brook. We've been here for 5.5 years, and I think it was about 4 years ago, shortly after we moved in, we had a meeting in another room here, and there was a proposal to build a building right where they're talking about now. And I think there was enough uproar from the neighbors, so now it's across the street, and it's being built right now. So that was moved away. So I think people thought, okay, we won that battle. That was just, okay, we'll place them and we'll move it over there, but we're coming back and we're going to put another building in. And I'm for affordable housing. As I agree with most of the people here that are saying it, is that this is not the place for it. You're talking about the back of the Shaheen's restaurant, okay? And so you're going to put a building there, and you're going to have parking spaces where people park now for the restaurant on busy nights, and which is great. We hope he's there forever. He seems to be doing very well, but he's going to be losing those parking spaces. Also, delivery trucks, 18-wheelers, when they come in for the food, that's where they go in. So where are they going to go now? Are they going to go on Greenside Way in front of the restaurant? And, nothing against Shaheen, but the back of the restaurant's not the most aesthetically pleasing. But that's the way restaurants are. They have to have, a place to put, their trash and everything else and deliveries. And so now, I don't know where these 18-wheelers are going to go. And so you're going to be blocking Greenside Way when they have the deliveries. I'm not saying there's deliveries all day long. It might be one, in the morning or late in the afternoon, but if they have to go in front of the restaurant, then it blocks it off. And there's lots of kids there, and there's enough traffic now. We went through the stop signs, and, we probably need to revisit that again with the police department, because people, have gotten used to those stop signs of, okay, nobody's coming, we'll just go through them without stopping. But I think ADM Makepeace has a lot of land. It may not just be right in Red Brook, or maybe there is in Red Brook, that this building could be somewhere else, but this is not the place. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room?
Bill Licata, resident of Red Brook. I don't want to lose sight of the fact that we all bought into the concept of a rural village with small buildings. Now, right across the street from this 19 unit is the 62 unit, and they seem to be getting bigger and bigger. At the end of all of this, we're no longer the small village. It's becoming bigger and bigger buildings. So I'm making an appeal to go back to the original concept of, if not a single unit, then the duplexes. We've got 12 duplexes that are affordable being built now. Why don't we go back to a little bit more of that and spread them around? There's still at least one more development, the 54 unit, which is coming up. Why can't we put a few there, or put another group of duplexes down where the 12 are going? Seems like there's room. There's room behind the apartments for more buildings. And putting it here at this location, yes, it's smaller than the 62 unit, which as the other people have said, it went across the street. But it's just getting to be an urban area, not what we bought into. Thank you.
Thank you. We don't ask them questions. You ask us a question. You come to the microphone.
So there's a parking issue, I think. With the previous building, I noticed that there were 4 spots designated for restaurant employees in behind the building. 4. Okay.
I went after that meeting that, when that gets started, I went to the back of the restaurant on a Friday night probably. I counted 18 cars back there, all restaurant employees. So I guess my question is, where are we going to put restaurant? They can't park out front because that's for the customers. So I'd like to know where, that those parking areas are designated for the restaurant employees. They need to, they can't park, a quarter of a mile away. That's a safety issue for anybody walking back to their car at, midnight or whatever it is. So that's my concern.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Joe Hutchinson, Red Brook. My conversations on this property go way back, as others have referenced. The discussion about that particular site behind the meeting house, I think of as sacrosanct. I think of that as community commons, that whole area. And so what we all expected, I think, was commercial properties like, the liquor store that somebody mentioned earlier. We're pre-approved, you might remember, for a liquor license in Precinct 17. Charlie Bletzer helped us out. So I've had conversations with Dan about this. I've had conversations with you about this. That area, the Commons, is how people get together. They play bocce. Kids ride their bikes. Generally speaking, it's, to me, the center of how we can grow our community and be a better community, actually, a stronger community. And, people have mentioned traffic. The traffic, I hadn't heard the length of the discussion about the 18-wheelers before, but I found that pretty cogent. Likewise, there is traffic in bikes. There are kids who ride bikes up and down that road, up Greenfield North. And, when I back out of those parking spaces, I'm looking behind there and hoping nothing's going to happen. So there are all kinds of traffic. There are the cars, there are the 18-wheelers, there are the bikes, there are the pedestrians. Keep that area for us. Keep it for the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room who hasn't spoken already?
I'm Ruth Ann Rahal, and I live in Red Brook. And parking is an issue, cars are an issue in that section of area that you're speaking about. And to add to that, we do not have sidewalks. I cannot walk. I live right across from the property you're talking about. And I cannot walk from my home to the YMCA, without walking in the street. And I can tell you, day after day, every day, I see strollers and kids and bicycles and scooters on the streets. There's nowhere for them to go but on the street. So when we want to add more congestion, more housing to that area, it's going to complicate the safety of the community. And I think that should be considered. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room? No? Anyone online, Lauren?
If anyone on Zoom would like to participate in the discussion, please notify us by raising your digital hand. You can find that at the bottom of the screen. I see one individual. Kim Karas, we're going to ask you to unmute. If you could identify yourself before you speak, please.
Are you able to hear me?
We are.
Thank you. I'm a resident of 9 Sunflower Way, and my property looks the site of this in a diagonal fashion. Couple points I want to make. One is that everyone at Redbrook purchased into some promises. Those promises manifested in recorded instruments. So when you go back and you look at the special permit and the MOU, a few different things surfaced that were promised to the residents by the town and by ADM. One was that the affordable housing would be dispersed throughout neighborhoods, not jam-packed in one particular area. So by jam-packing it in one particular area, and you can't, I asked the planning board not look at this proposal in isolation, but they step back and look at the entire neighborhood and what's directly across the street, which is the 64-unit complex, the Grantham project. So to look at that as well. But the affordable housing was to be dispersed throughout Redbrook, not jam-packed into one particular area. Another point I want to make, the recorded instruments, and this is the special permit and the MOUs, the 2 MOUs, do not allow for housing by itself to be located in the village mixed use area. What was contemplated and provided for in those recorded instruments, at best, was a smaller commercial area with residential housing perhaps on top, but not solely residential area in residential housing. The recorded instruments also speak to open space. This goes to what Joe Hutchinson said about what the characters of the Village Green area and the expectations of buyers who relied on the special permit in the MOUs. Page 7 of the special permit promises, quote, to preserve open space parcels within or near every village and residential neighborhood of Redbrook. Further down on page 7, the SP states that the village center would include neighborhood-scaled open space. So that's not happening when you look at Grantham and then you look at putting up this other building. The open space that was promised is diminishing, and with that comes problems of density, safety, parking. The talk about the playground, that's not to be poo-pooed. That was another promise in the actual recorded instruments. The page 22 of the special permit requires a playground in the village mixed-use area following substantial completion of the village mixed-use area.
Ms. Karas, you're at 3 minutes, so I'm going to ask you to wrap up, please.
All right, well, thank you. This is all broken promises from the town and from ADM regarding how this development was to be constructed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone
Anthony
else?
Carruthers, we're going to ask you to unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Yes, so I live in the Woodlands, and there are people who live in Cranberry Cove, and of course there's the new development going in further south off Wareham Road as we speak. And while it's a pleasant 1 mile, slightly over 1 mile walk up to the meeting house in summer, fall and spring, it's a little more problematic in winter. And if the meeting house is going to be useful for village meetings, we need to have enough parking there for those bad weather situations. So I think my point is simply that parking is going to be a problem for people who live further south from the village green. And if the meeting house is going to be useful, that has to be taken care of. That's
Thank you
all.
for your comments. Anyone else online?
Is there anyone else online wishing to be heard? Please raise your hand. Seeing none.
Okay, great. Mr. Corsica, you want to
Sure, there's a
respond?
few things I'd like to just address. First comment, village mixed use area, the last comment rather. First line item, residential buildings. So end of story. I don't want anyone confused that the village mixed use area does not allow residential. It's the first allowed use up there. Talks about density 6 to 10 units an acre, up to 15 with planning board approval. So I just don't want misinformation going on there. The playground, we're not eliminating the playground, we're relocating the playground. I'm proposing right now 2 different places, a small portion near the community garden and another portion over near Market Square. Again, all within the village mixed use area. This notion of broken promises, and yes, I'm gonna just go off on a little bit of tangent here. We said 103 affordable units, we're giving you 113. We said 70 to 80% AMI, yet we have a lot of them that are underneath 60, some that are even under 30. I just don't like people saying broken promises. Do things take time to address? Yes. Do they take time to come to fruition? Yes. These aren't broken promises. If anything, I could sit here and tell everybody here that what's in the permit, we're going above and beyond in multiple areas. I just have to say that. As far as the location's not warranted. I hear people talk about parking, I hear people talk about traffic, but then I hear a gas station, a liquor store, a retail. That generates more parking than 19 units of one-bedroom affordable housing. So we can't have it all both ways. Yes, is it because the site is flat? Of course.
Hang on.
The site is flat. The site is perfect.
Hang on a
for this
second.
type of housing.
Folks, we're going to be very clear about this. We let you speak. We gave you your time. That's respectful. He gets his chance to speak. You let him speak. If you interrupt him, you will be asked to leave. If you do not follow the instructions, you will not be allowed to speak at the next meeting. These are within our rights. We have a public comment policy. We follow our policy. That policy calls for you to be respectful. No one censors you. You can say what you wish, but you do not speak over people. That is just not acceptable in the way we do things here. I understand people can get upset. I can understand people can have disagreements. But I'm sure that someone would love to have spoken over you when you said something they disagreed with. No one did that. So we're not going to do that. I take this very seriously. Respect is very important in this process. Doesn't mean that anyone's going to stop you from speaking. We specifically cut this meeting into 2 at least to make sure that people had that opportunity. That's the level of respect we're showing you. Please reciprocate. Thank you. My apologies, Mr. Corsica.
No, it's all good. I understand. So the site itself is perfect, frankly. It is. It's flat. We're utilizing existing infrastructure. I just have to make the comment. Everyone talks about we own all this land, we own all this land. You're right. We own the land. We have a permit. We have an obligation. We have parameters in the permit and the bylaws, and that's what we're doing. You are right. We do own the land, and this is the best location for it. And I'm not going to waver from that, and I'm not going to propose a new location. This is the location of the building. The good question about this tractor trailers. So just coming back to this really quick, and I'll get into parking again because I've come prepared with some parking things. On the tractor trailer end of the world, we'll go to this plan here. So this is an existing curb cut behind the meeting house, that stays. That's an existing curb cut on Sunflower Way, that stays. It actually gets widened from what's there today. So the tractor trailers and the backing in, typically, and Sahin could speak more to this, but typically they'll either backing in this way and pulling out, or some of them pull here and pull out. That's gonna stay the same. So there's no changes to that. From a parking perspective, I'm gonna just say it again, and I get it. I do. The entire intent of a Red Brook development was to minimize land disturbance, take advantage of shared parking, shared driveways, and walk. That's the intent. Now, with that said, I don't mind doing more parking, but we're already above zoning parking requirements. Any additional parking we do, I just want everyone in the audience to know and the board to know, it's going to impact you more than it's going to impact me. Yes, we'll have to pay for it, we'll put it in, you guys will own it, you guys will maintain it, but it's gonna disturb where you guys live more. And I'm okay doing the parking, I get it. But just understand when you walk away and you want more parking, you're gonna see it, you're gonna feel it, you're gonna hear it. And so this is what I came up with, a few different concepts on parking. And we don't have to spend too much time on this, it's totally up to you guys. This is what we proposed, right? Well, what I did show here is I showed 6 more parallel parking spaces on Sunflower Way. I'd prefer head-in because you get more, but frankly, it mimics the existing condition across right here. That adds 6 more. Then I've added a parking lot of 16 spaces formalized paved here. So we can do an option like that. The other option we can do, so just to come back to it, that's required 47. Now we're almost doubling the zoning requirement. You can come back to this one, and I apologize, the Grantham building's not on the other image, and it should have been. Here's more parking. This parking says 47 required, parking provided 98. We can do that. I can head in parking all of Greenside Way South. For that matter, I could put more on Greenside and on Sunflower Way too. And this is a 24 lot parking lot. I could expand that even further, and I can get up to 104 spaces. So I would ask this board, and however you guys want, we meet zoning now. So I'm not going to propose to do more than what zoning requires, but if the board say you want 10 more, 15 more, tell me what you guys want, and we'll propose it, and we'll show you guys where we're going to put it. There's a variety of options to do it. I will say by doing more parking in parking lots like that, what this will do, it will limit our ability to put any portion of the playground here. It will all go down to Market Square, which is fine. In my opinion, to be honest with you, Market Square lends itself to it. It has its own other set of challenges because now you have introducing a different abutter, but that's okay. But it already has outdoor gathering space. It has the bakery and it has the mail house. It has the YMCA. It has the pickleball courts. To me, that just, it frankly makes more sense. And I'm open to either way. I will say what will come up again with that will be parking. But again, I think that's a great location. So again, I'm okay with adding parking. I would just ask this board, tell me what you want. Because I'm meeting zoning, I'm exceeding zoning. You want 10 more, 20 more, 15 more? Let me know and we can address that. And I think I forgot to tell people during the presentation, the 19 units is all, right now it's proposed to be 1 bedrooms, just so folks know. I think I've addressed most things.
Okay, very good. I'm going to bring it back to the board now for questions and comments. I'm going to start with Mr. Bennett.
Dan, can you expound a little bit or perhaps educate me on why there is not another place where this could go?
Sure. So believe it or not, most of our land at this point is in conservation restriction. There's not many other developable areas left at Red Brook. Some of the residential areas that are developable but aren't in the village mixed use area, which means we can't have this type of density, have solar fields on them now. Part of it is going to be in part of the next presentation. So that's essentially why there's not as much land as people may think that is actually developable. The comment about the more of those duplexes, that roadway there is already challenging to begin with, the amount of fill and the stuff we have to do. If you continue even further, it gets even more challenging.
So if just to be sure that I understand you, I'm going to repeat back what I understood is that, so this has to be in the village mixed use district. Is that correct? Did I get the terminology right?
At this level of density, it's either the village mixed use area or the village residential area, which in all intents and purposes, to me, I look at it as the same area, but it's essentially from a little south of the YMCA plus or minus up to the power lines, kind of in that corridor. I'm just going to the master plan just to show it a little bit more. It's kind of hard to see, but it's essentially this quadrant here. And as you guys know today, that's where all the density is. A lot of the density is there. And as we come away from that village center, you start seeing those neighborhoods kind of disperse.
Okay, I think that answers my question. So, and obviously I understand the fact that the infrastructure's right there already. Can you point out for me where just because I'm not as familiar with the area, of course, I've toured it and I've looked at it, but where is the proposed playground area that you're talking about?
So
Can
let's
you-
go. All right, so I'll just stay on this one for 1 second. So right now, this one shows me, so, okay, so here's the proposed building. Here's the existing community garden, which, by the way, I swear if we built another 300, you'd fill those up. This is what I'm proposing to put new playground. So it'd be south of that. So it wouldn't be exactly next to, like, the outdoor seating patio, and it's a great comment one of the residents made. I think the outdoor seating's plus or minus right here, so the playground's a little north of that. And as one of the other residents talked, the memorial garden or memory garden, I apologize if I'm getting that name wrong, I think is right up in this vicinity. So here's what I would do, essentially take about a third of the playground, almost 40%, put it here. And then the other location, and I do not have that, but the other location would be, this is really hard to see. It's like, here's the YMCA, it's literally right behind the YMCA.
Okay, I
wish I
have
had
the
bigger
advantage, I
area.
have Google Earth on my screen
Oh,
here, so I
okay,
kind of,
cool.
I'm looking at that. Carl's helping me out with, so. So it seems to me that, I don't know, can you go back to the slide with that shows just that block? So that southwest corner, some of the proposals you had some parking in there. And what I'm hearing, I think the largest complaint here is parking. And it seems to me that something perhaps like that one with parking in that area next to the smaller relocated playground, yeah, that southwest corner. That puts it in proximity to the restaurant. So just based on what I'm hearing from the residents, and I'm sure that we'll have an opportunity to hear some more, that seems to me like a viable compromise. The other issues that were brought up aside, parking seemed to be the big common thread that I heard. So I think that would be my recommendation, and I'll defer to my other board members for what they think about it. Thanks, Dan.
Yep. And I will say, one of the comments, and you guys might have seen this already, from the town engineer. The town engineer asked us not to put head-in parking. Now that's 16 spaces that we have to come up with. When I met with Mr. Bossy on, get my days confused because it's short week, actually yesterday, we agreed that we could do parallel parking here. That would be consistent to what the Red Brook Apartments have and the Grantham have. So when I'm trying to configure parking, I am going to lose these 16. I'll be able to put 6 in, so I'm losing 10. So whatever we do, if we want 10 more, 15 more, I'm really going to be getting 20 or 25 more is the intent, just so you guys are aware.
I think just personally, my preference, the parallel parking, not as desirable as actually isolated, but
I agree.
my personal preference. I can parallel park, but not my favorite.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Mr. Mand?
I think I heard things a little differently than Mr. Bennett, just in general, in the sense that I thought the main objection I was hearing from people was essentially what the expectations were for this area, like almost aesthetic, community-based, and they felt that this was a disruption to that, or not to get you too excited, a broken promise. And I will say that it resonated with me in the sense that I saw the thing happen in the Pine Hills, where they had a very large area designated for commercial space. And what they ended up doing there was making that commercial space into leasing to apartments, to condos. And so they dramatically increased the numbers of people living in that community, the density of it. And so they felt that this was a promise broken. So I'm sensitive to that, and I think that is a serious concern, not one that's made up of whole cloth. I think it's a serious one that needs to be considered. However, I don't know how you can address that, but I think that's how I hear it. Also, I want to know, you've gone from, I guess, 103 units of affordable housing to 113 total. That's the expectation for the completion. What percentage of homes is 113 affordable? I don't know how many total you have planned.
Nope, not many.
But I'm kind of getting at that, is there really a lot of affordable housing there? You might have met your expectations, but those expectations, what is it?
Yeah, it's 15% of the 113 are
Oh,
homes.
15%. So that's an improvement on many places, on 10% definitely. As we were talking earlier, you were here, I know, that we're trying to get as much affordable housing wherever we can, and I wasn't sure whether this was an appreciable amount changing that.
Can I stop you? I want to make sure that I'm not misleading what I was saying there. Because I think you're thinking 15% of the whole project, and if you are, that's not my intent. I was just saying 15% of our affordable requirement is homes, not rentals.
Oh.
So sorry, when I
No,
saw,
wanted
I
to
saw the clicking, and I just don't want to make sure I'm not saying
Yeah, I wanted
anything
to
wrong.
understand what the overall percentage,
Yeah.
we had this discussion of 10%.
So for Red Brook, so how would you guys do that? You would do the affordable over the market rate?
No, just the general number of, if you had 2,000 homes and you
Yeah.
had 10%,
So
that
we're
would be 200.
9.6.
You're what?
9.6 total.
Okay, yeah.
And just remember, because the first 336 units did not require affordable housing based on the rules. And then we're not only supposed to be doing, but then the other aspect of the bylaw with the transfer of development rights is that we're doing 10% of the market rate units created as a result of the transfer of development right bylaw, yet we agreed to do more than that.
Okay. I did.
Well, that's why I get annoyed when people
No,
tell me I'm
that's-
breaking promises.
That's a complexity that lost me there, but you know what I'm saying. I'm just trying to get a sense of whether or not this 19 units is making an appreciable difference in the amount that you've contributed. I'd like to see more affordable housing. I'd like to see more of the homes that you already had. I don't know what you've got left in terms of buildables, but I think I would rather you found affordable in different locations rather than in this particular unit, which upsets a lot of people for their, however it's concrete or specific in the things that were written down. That was the expectation. For a lot of people in a lot of the developments, they thought of an open space, green community set in this wonderful location, which it is, but they wanted to see that followed through in many other things, including the siting of something like this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Donaldson.
So I kind of have two just statements. We don't have any questions. So when I look at your rendering of the site in the proposal, I guess it was brought up in regards to walkways. It looks like with the building of, go back one. No,
This guy?
that guy right there. It looks like it's gonna make it a little bit more walkable with the building itself. So I think that kind of addressed.
So can I, if you don't mind, sorry to interrupt,
Please.
but I just want to address, because specifically, and excuse me if I get your house wrong, it's one of these end units. To her point, as I sat there and I listened to that comment, and I said, that can't be. But I'm sitting here thinking to myself, okay, if you come out this way, this walkway, she's right, it doesn't go across to this way. Now, the walkway does come this way, and then now there's not the formal, what the heck's going on? There we go. But there would be the walkway that gets you this way, but she's not wrong. And I can analyze this corner right here, because as I'm sitting there thinking in my head, there's a sidewalk literally right there behind those parking spaces and right there, but there is no crossing there. So we can look at that one.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And could you go back to the other photo with your proposal and moving the playground? So if I had, my opinion, I would say, is I think the playground, if you could add more spaces where the playground is and have the playground where, by the YMCA, aesthetically it would be better, and it also concentrates all that open space together, in my opinion, and also it'll add more spaces in that area, and that's something that I would be okay with. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Donaldson. Mr. Smith.
I find the comments from the residents to be very thoughtful, and I think they need to be addressed very, very carefully. I don't know the detail of the promises. I saw what it says residential isn't allowed use for that site, as well as, and residential over commercial was one of the options, but not a requirement for that space. The playground, I think, needs to be addressed very carefully. And having it's a large playground now, obviously a real benefit, real amenity to the community. So making sure if it moves, that it gets handled properly. The concern about the parking along Wareham Road, I think needs to be addressed. The traffic is only going to be increase along there, and there's a concern about people backing up out of those spaces into Wareham Road, even though that is the current situation now is that you have those spaces there. So I think there are a lot of things to consider. Parking in general is an issue in that area, so I think it has to be addressed in a thoughtful way. So, you've proposed a number of options. I think some of them are too drastic, but I think that some kind of compromise can be reached. So that's what I have right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Grandy?
Thank you, through the chair. I have a question to Dan. Did you speak with the restaurant owner regarding the parking and how this would affect his business? And was there an in-depth conversation with the owners of the facility there?
No, I would say the owner, no, we haven't had an in-depth conversation. I would say the owner is aware, and I know he has brought up to me parking matters in the past. As I understand it, the parking becomes more of the challenge at a night like when we have a beer garden or when we have other things going on. So, but no, he's definitely brought it up to me in the past, but I'm not going to tell you I've had an in-depth conversation with him.
Does he own the building, or is he?
No, we own the building. He's our tenant.
He's your tenant, so you would want your tenant to succeed within your
Yeah,
designs.
absolutely.
Correct? So I would suggest just maybe sit down with him and go through. If
Yeah,
he's
I
not
don't want to,
aware-
I don't want to speak for him, but I
I'm
think
not
he'll
gonna
be
speak
thrilled
for
to
him
hear
either.
more parking.
And I can't speak for him.
Yeah.
But as a planning board member, I would hope that you would have that communication with your tenant to ensure that his business is going to thrive through your new design, is all I'm asking. Okay? Now, I am the longest tenured planning board member here, and I was here in the beginning. I walked to Bourne Road before the first shovel even hit the ground at Makepeace, and worked with a couple of town meeting representatives to come up with Bourne Road realignment. We talk about Makepeace working with the town of Plymouth and the residents and the benefits of what they've done for the residents of the town of Plymouth. They've conserved over 1,800 acres of open space. They did the Bourne Road connector. They did Long Pond Road, Halfway Pond Road, the lights, right? South Elementary School sidewalk and pedestrian crossing, the Wirelands Trust signalized crossing, $50,000 fund repeater for the Plymouth Fire Department, South Elementary multi-use baseball field, which I worked with Makepeace and negotiated, so the children of Makepeace could go over to the South, when they're at the South Elementary School, and have a field, baseball field and a soccer field to utilize. They also donated land for a fire station just outside of Makepeace. I'm sure you're aware that that land was donated. And obviously, the planning board, the building committee, and everybody worked diligently so that we have a future location for a new fire station on Bourne Road, other than the older facility that the firemen are working in currently. So they have been working with the town of Plymouth and the residents to create a better town of Plymouth and a safer town of Plymouth. It's important when we look at, parking, building, how it affects you, the whole 9 yards. But remember, at the end of the day, your house was built at one time where you live, so it wasn't mine. And it used to be woods where my house is as well. So during the approval with town meeting and everything that went through all the planning board back before this even started, we tried to create a community area within that space. But also, we allowed the higher densities so we could conserve 1,800 acres of land to protect the environment, the aquifer, everything that comes with this. So I appreciate all the comments that you're stating here this evening. And as far as adding an additional parking, if the restaurant owner and the people in that area feel you need more parking for the meeting house, for the restaurant, et cetera. I've ate at that restaurant, and I don't mind if the kids were in a recreational field playing. It doesn't bother me. As far as kids playing, it doesn't bother me at all. I'd like to see more of it myself. So it's important that that recreational park stays in place at the same size, which has already been brought up. So we're here to work together with the developer, with the residents in that area. And I live in South Plymouth, down by the Little Sandy Pond Campground. Very familiar with the area, very familiar with Makepeace, very familiar with the Pine Hills area. These issues you brought up this evening are very important. So let's come up with some type of common ground that we can get this facility in place and working with the residents, the restaurant owners, everything that comes into play here. And I hope we can accomplish that working together, not banging our heads together and fighting across the board. I wouldn't say fighting, but let's have a discussion, which we are having this evening, and we're going to have more of these discussions in future meetings that's involved here. We're going to be discussing the next use group area after this. So I'm sorry I'm a little long-winded, but I think we're working toward the right things that we need to do. And I appreciate everybody that's here this evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Mr. Grandy's correct in a very specific way as well. The role of the planning board is limited in these instances. I've heard people who said that, I was promised this, or I expected this, or I thought this was going to be, or this was my vision. And I have no intention of minimizing that. Those are all very legitimate statements. But the planning board's role is limited. We're governed by state law. Planning boards are literally a state law created entity. And when it comes to what we can do in certain instances, we're restricted by that law. In this particular instance, we're restricted to enforcing the terms of the permit that was granted back in 2008 and the MOUs that followed. So while I personally would like to have seen affordable housing in different places, and as Mr. Gorsica knows, I was probably one of the biggest ones to push for those duplexes, those 12 duplex homes that have just been added, and I would love to see more of those. I also know that per the terms of the permit, I can't dictate that. I can ask for it, but ultimately, the permit reads very specifically that it basically says that when it comes to use, the planning board has no right to decide or restrict what types of units are being built anywhere within Red Brook. If they are permitted by the permit, and as you saw, Mr. Gorsica put that up there, residential is permitted in this zone. We can't say no just because we don't like it. I wish I could in some instances. In many instances, I'm presented with things that I wish I could say no, and I can't. With respect to the issue of dispersal of affordable housing within Red Brook, one of the ironies is that that's how they started all of this, and that's how they fell behind in the first instance. We looked at dispersing affordable housing within the various use area developments. And what we discovered was they weren't working. They were too expensive for people to actually afford. Not the original purchase price, that wasn't going to be a problem because those are dictated by state law. but the ongoing maintenance requirements. You folks who live in Red Brook know it's expensive. It's expensive to pay your HOA fees and your landowner fees. Your utilities are not inexpensive. You're going to be ultimately responsible for your well and your water treatment facility. You just got an assessment because the snow was a lot higher than anyone expected this year. I got one in the Pine Hills too. And we've discovered that those types of expenses don't work for people who are trying to qualify for affordable housing. So we have been focused on creating affordable housing that does work within Red Brook, within the confines of the Red Brook parameters. And unfortunately, greater density buildings are the type that work best. They just do. So while I would, again, wish there was some other place to put this and would love to say that, at the same time, I'm also not one who says that, gee, I'd like to clear cut another area in order to build a building when there's an area that's already cleared that we can put one in. So I'm sympathetic to both sides. I understand why people don't want another residence in this area, and I understand why a residence makes sense in this area. With respect to the restaurant, I've spoken to the owner, and I'm not going to make representations for him, but I do know that every business has always said, gee, it's great to have people living in a walking distance from me. The closer that they're there, the more people who can walk to my business, the better. I'm all for it. But they also want the parking because they know that not everybody is going to walk. So my mindset follows a bit along the lines of what some of my other board members have said. First, I know that there's a lot more shared parking in the area that doesn't get used. People don't know that it's there. There's no signage to take people behind the medical building to say that you can park there. Certainly the YMCA, although that is a bit further, and I respect that not everybody's going to want to do that walk. But we should have signage that at least says that there is some shared parking, some overflow parking areas that are available. But at the same time, I also do agree that this new building is going to take away some of the parking that is being used right now for the restaurant, for the Village Green, for the meeting house. And that's got to be added. You're correct. You have seen me at Black Lantern. I don't know if I qualify as a regular yet, but I'm there on a reasonably frequent basis. And I can tell you there's certainly nights that I have been there, not too long ago, where it was an off night. I thought, gee, no big, and I had to really loop around to look to find parking. And I ended up parking behind the building because I know it's there. It's not going to be there anymore per se, or if it is, it's going to be very limited because residents are going to use that area now. So we need to find that more parking. We just absolutely do. I think that what I would say right now is, while you may be complying with the zoning bylaw is not particularly adequate for this situation. I think that we're already short on parking, and I think that this will further shorten parking, so we need to find those additional spaces. How many additional? I'm not sure yet. I certainly would say that the additional lot that was proposed next to would probably be a real benefit to the area there. I know that that does impact the playground issue. I will echo Mr. Donaldson's statement. I actually love the idea of the playground being between the Y and the post office and the coffee house and the pickleball courts. I think it does create a community area, and there is parking there already for the playground. I think it's close enough, but at the same time, I think, first of all, I think that the bakery would love to have that additional draw of saying, gee, wouldn't it be wonderful to drop the kids off, go play, go inside, grab a cup of coffee and a muffin, and sit outside and watch them. That's not going to happen over at the Black Lantern in the afternoon. It will happen over there. So I think that that's a win-win. I think that we need to make sure that the parking is taken care of, though, in the Village Green area. I think that obviously, yes, traffic is always going to be an issue. That's just the nature of the problem when we have more people there, period. This is 19 one-bedroom units. This will not make or break the Village Green. I understand it, but, so I'm also going to ask one question. So per the terms of the permit, and I know you do this, every 2 years you're required to do a traffic study.
Yep, they might have, you guys have probably seen the markers out. We're doing it right now.
Right. And you've been doing it every 2 years.
Yeah, biannually.
At any point, have those traffic studies shown that you are above anticipated traffic levels at that phase of construction?
They use 10% as a threshold, just so you know, 'cause a lot of it has to do because of active construction equipment. So we've always been within the 10% of what they projected, whether low or high. Like during COVID, we were really low. No one was driving anywhere when we did it. So no, we're never above that threshold. We're always right on target. And what they take into consideration is what you have closed at that point in time, based on their projections.
Right.
And we do that all the way. The last time we do it, based on the report, is 1 year after the final occupancy.
Right. So per the terms of the permit, this board can't require traffic mitigation, additional traffic mitigation, unless they go over that 10%. So we're going to watch that very carefully. And if they go over it, we're going to be there and say, we're going to find additional measures. So I think we do need to address the parking issue. I want to also talk about the connectivity of the sidewalks.
Yeah, that's a gaffe on my end. As she said it, I'm thinking, yeah, she's not wrong.
But I've heard it, that it goes further down as well. So, like an opportunity to go through that with you, to walk through
Yeah,
that.
perfect.
And if we can find any other areas, I'd like to see that we get those addressed. I want to encourage people to walk when they can walk and if they're able to walk. And I want to make sure that the people who can't walk and who need to drive in there have a place to be reasonably close to where they need to be. And I want it to be successful, and I want you to be able to have meetings, and I want you to be able to have beer gardens, and I want the restaurant to be good, and I want everybody to be able to use that area. And that includes, if we add 19 more units there, I want those people to be incorporated, and I want the residents to have the appropriate screening. So let's focus on doing all of that cooperatively. I know people are not going to be happy if a building goes there. I think that people would be upset no matter what building went in there. Some people will, some people won't. I mean, I heard a 7-Eleven as a suggestion. Now, I can't imagine that I would want to live anywhere near a 7-Eleven. But nonetheless, unfortunately, what I do know is that Makepeace has tried to bring in commercial there, and it's a real challenge. Strangely, your biggest challenge in bringing in commercial there is there's not enough of you. Pine Hills is over 3 times the number of residents and is directly off of Route 3. That's why it has a thriving commercial center. And at the same time, nonetheless, the developer subsidized the market for almost 10 years. They lost money on that market for 10 years because they knew it was going to be an amenity they ultimately wanted there. I've talked to them about it multiple times because I've asked, how do we do this elsewhere in town where we're short of markets? And I was shocked to see the numbers. So it's a challenge. But I want to see whatever we do be as successful for as many people as possible. So that's where I'm going to leave that. All right, at this point, we're going to continue this hearing on this issue, and we'll move on to the next use area.
Do we need a motion to continue? To what date?
We're going to need a date.
Hey, Deb, do
So,
you want to just put the next one up?
This isn't an advertised public hearing because it's a site plan review. That said, I do recommend that you pick a time and date to continue to. The next meeting that you have is June 10th.
okay, June 10th?
Yeah, works for me.
Okay.
And whatever plans you guys want, you tell me when, we need it. I'm assuming at least like a week from today
Yes.
to get you guys a packet together of any changes.
Yes.
Perfect.
Motion to continue to June 10th.
I have a motion to continue to June 10th.
Second.
Second discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Okay. The hearing stays open and will be continued to June 10th on use area 17. Use area 18.
Because I have it written down, I will say, good evening, Mr. Chairman, my fellow board members and staff. My name is Dan Gorsico, Vice President of Development for the 80 Makepeace Company. This presentation is for use area 8, a residential subdivision. We're here this evening seeking approval of use area plan pursuant to section 205-72 of the zoning bylaw and previously approved master plan special permit. As outlined in the special permit decision, the project is intended to be developed in phases and by use area, which each use area plan reviewed through administrative site plan approval for consistency with applicable zoning bylaws, the Trevor bylaw, and the approved master plan special permit. Where this is a residential subdivision, this also goes through the definitive subdivision process. The application before you this evening satisfies those requirements and is substantially in accordance with the master plan. Use Area 18 is a residential area of Red Brook. We are proposing single-family homes, which is an allowed use in this area. There is a total of 54 single-family homes, and there are no waivers being requested at this time. The allowed density in this area is 1 to 4 units per acre. Again, the planning board always has discretion to go higher. Right now, currently, we are slightly little less than 2 units per acre in this use area. Use Area 18, highlighted in that yellow box, is the Red Brook, on this Red Brook Illustrative Master Plan. It's located off of Wareham Road in the southeast quadrant of the property. The neighborhood entrance is on the east side of Wareham Road, directly across Preservation Way, which is part of the previously approved Use Area 14. To support this area, ADM has upgraded approximately 800 linear feet of Wareham Road to meet town standards as part of our special permit, which has improved traffic flow and access for residents. There's also a sidewalk that runs that entire length and continues to the other sidewalk that's further north. We also installed 2 raised pedestrian crosswalks to serve as traffic calming measures. When you're driving south on Red Brook, the first one is right after use area, the entrance of use area 11 and 12, and then the other is right after the entrance of use area 14 and now use area 18. The proposed neighborhood includes 54 single-family homes, all market rate. The proposed homes are between 1,800 and 2,300 square feet and are between 2 to 4 bedrooms depending on home style and market conditions. The homes will be constructed by E.J. Pontiff, who has constructed homes now in use area 9, 12, and currently in use area 14. Per the special permit, a total of 54 transfer development rights are being used. Those TDRs are coming from the Frogfoot East descending area. All of that land associated with those TDRs is in permanent conservation restriction. As a result, the 54 TDRs, 5 affordable units are required. The required affordable units we are proposing to construct as part of use area 17 that we previously discussed with the board. This is just a conservation map that I like to show as we update through the years, and I know it's kind of hard to see. That's the key number right there. That number to date for Red Brook, to date, 1,875 acres of land has been permanently protected in conservation restriction as a result of our project. That number will continue to grow to just north of 2,000 when all said and done. Yeah, I apologize because you can't really necessarily see these lines. But this exhibit, what I'm trying to show in this exhibit is the existing site condition with the lot plan overlaid on top of it. This shows different types of environmental resource areas that are considered during the design process. As shown on the plan, portions of the site do fall within the map natural heritage and endangered species priority and estimated habitat areas. As you may be aware, or you should be aware, the Red Brook project required a conservation and management plan from the Massachusetts Division of Fisheries and Wildlife. The proposed work falls within the development footprint as shown in the permit, initially granted in 2011, which has been amended through the years, most recently in December of 2025. As part of the conservation and management plan, there are mitigation measures, including land conservation, escrow accounts, and forest management, all which are being satisfied. Nearby resource features also include wetlands, potential vernal pools, and certified vernal pools, which are all located outside of the proposed roadway and lot layout. The development footprint and roadway network were, excuse me, were intentionally designed to work within these areas, within these existing environmental constraints, and to avoid sensitive resource areas to the greatest extent practicable. It's important to note that the town's Conservation Commission issued a memo stating the project is not within their jurisdiction. The plan also identifies the DEP Zone 2 and Zone wellhead protection areas and floodplain mapping, both of which are outside of the proposed development area. Overall, this exhibit demonstrates the proposed layout was developed in careful consideration of the site's natural features and in substantial conformance with the environmental design standards established under the master plan. This exhibit illustrates the proposed condition of use area 18, including the neighborhood layout, road network, drainage infrastructure, and overall intent of the neighborhood as far as layout goes. The proposed neighborhood has been designed as a continuation of the established Red Brook development pattern with formal landscaping. We'll propose formal landscaping at the entrances, and then there's two cul-de-sac, or so to speak, cul-de-sac here and like a landscape eyebrow. Those will be having formal landscaping. And then the other areas, what we try to do is we try to put back the existing environment the best we can, which means relocating forest matter, existing trees. The plan also incorporates several proposed drainage areas. Those are these areas that you see here. Believe it or not, that's blue, but it looks black. Those are signifying where we have stormwater being discharged. What that means, we have a stormwater system. It is the stormwater is captured through a series of deep sump hooded catch basins, along with water quality units, sediment forebays, and ultimately then discharged back into the ground. All the stormwater produced, all the impervious area on this neighborhood, sorry, saying too many words. All the stormwater gets captured, treated, and then recharged into the ground. All right. This is summarizing, so the proposed utilities and stormwater infrastructures, which I just mentioned some of them. The stormwater management system, just to continue on, it's been designed in accordance with the stormwater rules and regulations that are required, and we promote the use of the low-lying existing depressions to capture that water and to ultimately recharge. I just wanted to touch on sewer for a second. As the board is aware, Red Brook has a groundwater discharge permit with the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection for its ability to discharge wastewater into the ground. Wastewater from this neighborhood will be collected through a gravity system and then directed to a proposed pump station, which is this kind of red color here. Then that pump station will pump the wastewater into pipes this way. It crosses the street, goes into an existing neighborhood, ultimately discharging to the wastewater treatment plant facility that we have on site. That plant, to give you guys perspective from this, is probably bird's eye 3 miles away to the northwest, where it ultimately gets treated, meeting DEP standards, and then gets discharged into the ground. In addition, potable water will be provided through Red Brook's private water system rather than individual private wells. Overall, the proposed infrastructure has been designed to provide reliable utility service while remaining consistent with the environmental and engineering standards established underneath the master plan. These are some of the home styles that EJ Pontiff builds. There may be another model or two that maybe gets introduced. That's all dictated by the market. So we just thought it would be helpful to show you some of these homes. These are very similar products, if not the same products as you've seen in use area 9, 12, and now use area 14. I will not read these again, but this is the same slide as the last time. Just again, I'm very proud to be part of this company and to be working with the town for the last 12 years. And then with that, I would ask if there's any questions.
Okay, again, I'm going to open it up for public comment. 3 minutes, please. Just so everyone knows, if you've submitted something to us in writing, either a letter or an email, please assume we have read it. We've all received all of them. They're part of our packages. We do read everything. It's hundreds of pages that we get, but we do read everything. So I'm not telling you what to say. I'm just suggesting that when you have 3 minutes, If you've said, there's no reason to reread something that we probably have already seen. With that, is there anyone who would like to be heard? Yes, please, come forward.
Which one, the neighborhood itself or something different?
you have the whole build out of 18.
This one?
No, further back. A little bit back, you have the other.
The whole master plan?
The master
guy?
plan will do, that'll do.
Okay, this little red button.
Thank you.
What's the light?
Thank you. My name is Kathy Mahoney. I'm from 1 Sandy Beach Road, which everyone in this room has probably driven by my house a million times. It's at the corner of Sandy Beach Road and Wareham Road. So I'm very familiar with this area in this build out. Obviously, in this area, I have several concerns, like we all would with something coming in so close. But I want to focus tonight, and I want to make sure that the board is aware of something that I mentioned at the caucus last week, because I feel very strongly, the more I think about it, I think that you all really need to know. And I'm assuming you know, but I don't want to assume. So I want to make sure you do know about this safety issue. And to me, it's fire. If you look at if you look at this part of Red Brook, approximately from here south, those two build-outs that are in place and the proposed or the planned one are only serviced by Wareham Road. The rest of Red Brook has multiple entrances and exits, both for fire, EMS, and police. Wareham Road, as many of you probably know, was not designed to support this degree of traffic. We understand this is going to, the traffic is not going to go away. However, what the traffic brings is a higher chance of car accidents, head-on collisions, cars off the road, fallen trees and bad storms, which happens several times a year. And so it is not uncommon for those of us who live in the southernmost part of this area to be cut off from the rest of Plymouth, from EMS for days on end. And I'm not sure you guys realize that. The rest of Red Brook has alternative ways to get a fire truck in or police in. Imagine a house fire or a shooter or some other tragedy in one of these homes in a storm, and there's an accident, there's a disabled vehicle, even a breakdown will shut this road down. It doesn't have to be a catastrophe. And there's no way to get backup police, backup fire, EMS services back into this area quickly. For those of you who don't know this, I have been, we've owned that property since my mother insisted when I was an infant that the kitchen be built before we could stay there. So I've been there a long time. I've lived through several fires that have happened. I think most of you, if you know Plymouth history, know that there were several large fires in Plymouth in the 60s particularly. There was another one in Miles Standish, I think, a few months ago. And actually in 2010, at the end of Sandy Beach Road, which is almost abutting this new development, there was a house fire that just while sitting here, I found the news report that I'm just going to read to you for just a moment here. I have it. It's very brief. This is from the Patriot Ledger. A house at 201 Sandy Beach Road burned to the ground Sunday night. All 4 members of the family escaped without injury, but the dogs died. All 4 members escaped. The Deputy Fire Chief, Michael Young, I don't know this person, don't know if he's still here. Deputy Fire Chief Michael Young said a wood stove was in use when the fire broke out around 7:20 p.m. The house was engulfed in flames by the time firefighters arrived. Young said, this is the deputy chief, said it took Plymouth firefighters about 15 minutes to travel less than 2 miles along narrow snow-covered roads. He said the remoteness of the house had delayed the rescue response. I think that highlights to me what I want my 3 minutes here to tell you guys is that this build is in a dangerous place. And I don't think everyone appreciates that in this community. You'd have to have been through the history and understood this and understand the lay of the land with where Wareham Road is. Some of you might not realize that those of us where I live and southern, where other folks over there live, we don't have fire hydrants. So any water going on a house fire gets pumped out of White Island Pond and onto a house. So if there's a fire in one of our homes, that risks spreading now also to this new development that's going in. So I just wanted to make that clear to everybody. I think I'm done. I'm probably right about at my 3 minutes.
You're almost at 5 minutes.
I'm sorry. One last thing is last week.
Please, very quickly,
I
yes.
will. Last week, we heard that there's intermittent cell service. I don't know what the cell service is going to be like in this new development. So if you combine lack of cell service, high fire risk from pine, and an isolated area and one way out, it's a disaster waiting to happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? First, and then Mr. Leiden.
Hi there. My name is Andrew Geller. I live on Wareham Road, 538 Wareham Road. So I am in a butter to this new project. I've only been in Plymouth about 4.5 years, and I moved there because I wanted to be able to see the forest behind my house. I have a hot tub. I like to be out there. And from the calculations I did with a neighbor, this project will be about 150 feet behind my property line. Leaves do fall in the fall and winter, and if someone wants to see my backside when I leave my hot tub, so be it. But I'd love it to be pushed back. More setback from Wareham Road and probably from Sandy Beach. The main issue I have besides that is the traffic and the lack of sidewalks. That part of Wareham Road is like a speedway. And I understand there are some bumps that'll be put in the road, speed bumps, and there'll be another one close to me because I have a blind driveway. But my wife and I like to hike. I used to hike in the woods down to the reservoir. They've almost denuded hundreds of acres. It's disgusting. I don't even want to walk there. So I walk more along Wareham Road. My wife has come very close to being hit. What I would like, and I know I mentioned this to you, I just want to have him hear it, a sidewalk put in from 533 Wareham Road north, crossing Bessie Bog Road, and hooking up with the sidewalk on that side of the road. Doesn't go over anyone's properties. I think it's probably all Makepeace land. But, this new development is 54 units. The area where they're building now is going to be 67 units. Pond Walk, which is not Makepeace's, that's another 49 units. So the amount of traffic just keeps building and building and building. And it's treacherous walking along the road. It's a narrow road, and at least there can be one stretch where they can put in a sidewalk on that side. And then one other thing with I spoke with one of the town engineers, and I know they had to do new drainage calculations every so often. He hadn't even reviewed the drainage calculations as of about a week and a half ago. So that's basically what I want to say.
Thank you. Mr. Leiden.
Steve Leiden, I live in South Plymouth, past Red Brook. When I moved down here 40 years ago, it was all woods. We have no hydrants. We had a fire, and luckily the fire came up my street and then turned and went the other way. I live off of Bourne Road. There is no sidewalks. There is no street lights. And there never will be because the town can't afford to do it. And to take a lot of property, to put sidewalks in, you have to have enough land on either side to take them. I don't think Wareham Road has the land to put sidewalks in. And this is, we have, like I said, we have no fire. And I moved down there 40 years ago, and I loved it was all woods. And it was really nice because there was no ponds of Plymouth. It was all woods. There was no deer pond. It was all woods. There was no Red Brook. There was all woods. But I moved down there because I liked it down there. These people moved down there because they like it down there. I'm not complaining. Good luck to Red Brook. Good luck to the ponds of Plymouth. You know, this is progress. People move in. It's traffic. We're not going to stop traffic. Look at all the billions of dollars they spent on the big dig, and what's that done for traffic? Nothing. It's just something we have to, you know, we have to live with, make the best we can. I don't walk on Bourne Road. There's no sidewalks. There never will be. And this is just the way we live. It's what it's like. I'm sorry, but, you know, I wish we had sidewalks. I wish we had hydrants. I wish we had, you know, all my woods back, but that's not going to happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room wish to speak? No? Okay, I do see we have some hands online.
I'm going to go in no particular order. There's 3 individuals with their hands raised. When you see the request host ask you to unmute, please unmute yourself and identify yourself. Scott? Scott, you have your hand raised. Would you like to unmute yourself? Did you not wish to speak? He would like to speak.
He'd like to speak. He's just having a little technical difficulties.
There we go.
There we are.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Scott McMillan. I live at 51 Wisteria Road in Red Brook. I have a statement to make, and then I have several questions. My statement is regarding trees, specifically in use area 18. Trees add substantial visual appeal and can help reduce the need for irrigation using scarce and expensive water, and there is no doubt that mature trees add to the value of any home. In fact, a commonly used descriptor of particularly attractive upscale neighborhoods is that of being leafy. Insufficient trees are being retained and planted in Red Brook neighborhoods to ever describe these neighborhoods as being leafy. I draw your attention to section 203-2B1 of the zoning bylaw, Plymouth zoning bylaw. This is the vegetation preservation subsection of the natural features conservation bylaw. Specifically, I'm concerned that the construction of existing Red Brook neighborhoods is not held to this subsection, and I'm looking to the board to ensure that use area 18 is compliant with the zoning bylaw regarding vegetation preservation. I'm going to address 3 subsections. The first 2 have to do with naturally existing trees. Subsection A states, naturally existing tree coverage and other desirable existing and native vegetation shall be preserved on every lot to the maximum extent possible as shown on an approved development plan. B, outside of areas of active construction, all trees of native species and greater than 6 inches in diameter, all significant natural and native vegetation shall be retained to the extent practicable. I just want to note that use area 18 and elsewhere in Red Brook, this vegetation includes the important coastal pine barren habitat. Prior construction practice of many of the existing neighborhoods at Red Brook is to cut down all of the trees to the edge or even beyond the edge of every lot line and far beyond the limits of construction. This results in a much larger lawn than necessary, particularly in the rear, which drastically increases the requirement for lawn chemicals and very expensive irrigation water. In addition, tree preservation on the side yards adds visual appeal and privacy. My request is to the board, please require that the builder to limit the tree cutting on each residential lot, particularly on the sides and in the rear, to only what is necessary to reasonably construct each home. The second topic is shade tree planting. This is addressed in subsection C. Residential development standard. On completion of construction, there shall be an average minimum of 4 trees of native species and 2.5 to 3 inch diameter per dwelling unit. At least
Sir,
2
you're already
on
at
each
3
lot.
minutes. You're already at 3 minutes. So I appreciate your pointing out the statute. We can
Could
read
I
the
just go
statute.
one more minute, please?
Yes, you can have one more minute, but I suggest you use it to ask your questions.
Okay. While the section doesn't specifically appoint shade tree, it appears to contemplate the planting of trees. At Red Brook, the builders have typically planted 2 trees in front of each lot. In most cases, they include a single red maple, which is a reasonable tree, and 1 ornamental tree that'll never be an acceptable shade tree. These are short-lived and unattractive and invasive species, including ornamental birch and even Callery pear. Furthermore, there is no way that 4 trees are ever planted per dwelling unit. My request to the board is please require the builder to plant at a minimum 2 trees in front of every house type, in front of every type of a type that will develop into long-lived shade trees, and 4 trees per unit throughout the use area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kristen Macedo. Kristen, are you able to address the board? I see that you're unmuted. I'm not hearing any audio, but she is unmuted.
Oh, there she is. Oh, in a vehicle, that's why it's just a matter of signal strength, I'm sure.
I didn't do that.
At the very least, I would suggest that you don't use your camera. That'll help your signal strength. Ms. Macedo, we can't hear you. Can you hear us? No, she's muted again. Oh. Ms. Macedo? Yeah, why don't we go to the next person? We'll come back.
Sure. Rachel?
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Fantastic. First of all, I want to apologize. I was there in person, but I needed to leave because I do have a child at home.
No
and
apologies
she's
necessary.
But there's a reason why I'm saying this, because she's the reason I'm here. I was at the meeting in the first place. It's a legacy. I am representing the William Whiting Trust at 11 Sandy Beach Road. My great-grandparents built the cottage. It is known as the Cottage in 1925. They built that because they had a dream to have an amazing family retreat at quote-unquote the pond. Right now, there are handprints on the wall of the cottage, a lady slipper in my yard, and bald eagles flying about. As a little girl, it took forever to drive to the pond. Huckleberries, crazy roads, lots of fun. I remember the construction sign saying one lane road and laughing back in the early 2000s. Years and years ago, Kathy talked about the major fires. One of those fires took out our outhouse and my grandmother's swing. She talked about that a lot before she passed in 2014, I apologize. Kathy also spoke about emergency vehicles being able to get to the pond. Most recently, there was a injury to a jet skier where the emergency vehicles took way too long to respond. Since Red Brook, I have personally seen the environmental concerns, especially fishing decline and turtle decline. I also want to make a point, I'm trying to stay to my 2 minutes as well, that as far as commitments that the Red Brook has talked about, they say they donated the land, but who's going to be funding these salaries? I also want to address Mr. Grandy. He mentioned about the first meeting back in the circa 2000s. I was there also. I was there with my grandmother who had grave concerns for White Island Pond. And she was assured that Red Brook will never affect the quality of life at White Island Pond. In addition, they will never pave the roads. I think 95% of the roads leading from Red Brook to White Island Pond is now paved. It talks about broken promises. It also brings us back to the more parking at the meeting house area and the poor planning involved. I hear about segregation for low-income families. That's all I'm hearing about. Put all the low-income families in one space. And moving a playground, I feel like that's more money down the drain. My question is, if they have already been this many broken promises, how many more will there be? And where it's going to be the commitment to the environment? That's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I appreciate the time and consideration and letting us join via Zoom. As I said, I have a family at home, and my daughter was listening to this until about 9:30 when I finally told her she needs to go to bed because she's fully committed to the prosperity and the integrity of White Island Pond. And she also says that she wishes that she remembers the dirt road that I always talk about driving down and how White Island Pond was so magical.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Ms. Macedo, are you able to join us? We can see you now. I think she's trying to get us. We can see you, but we cannot hear you. I'm sorry.
I may suggest if Ms. Macedo is unable to speak tonight that she submit comment to the planning department and we can distribute to the board.
Absolutely, and of course, if she's able to attend the next meeting, we'll certainly make sure that she gets priority treatment in terms of that. So just please make a note of that. Ms. Macedo, I'm sorry, we just aren't unable to hear you, and hopefully we'll be able to get your comments either in writing or in person at another point in time. My apologies for the technology. It's a benefit to us, but it's still not a perfect world, unfortunately. Is there anyone else? Okay, at this time, I'm going to bring it back to the board then. I'm going to first ask Mr. Gorska if he has any, if he wishes to address any of the statements. I'm not going to ask you to address the ability of fire trucks to reach areas outside of Red Brook.
No, but I will just, frankly, I think that was going to be the only comment I had. If I recall from the plans, there are lands in and around the areas owned by either us or the town of Plymouth. If we ever wanted to have conversations about any of that, you guys just reach out, let me know. We know we have private water nearby. All of our stuff has hydrants going all the way down to Wareham Road into our neighborhoods, but if there's ever a larger conversation about that to be had, let us know.
Well, the town is currently in the process of doing a wildfire review, so we'll make a point of making sure that the people get in touch with you and see if there's some additional work that can be done.
And I would ask the gentleman who asked about the buffers, I tried to do it on the plan, I can't. If just right after the meeting, if you want to give me your contact information, I can get you the answers.
Okay, back to the board. I'm going to ask him for a show of hands, just raise hands. Who wants to speak? I'm not going to call in people at this point. Who has? Mr. Mand.
Yeah, we'll try to keep this short. I was very interested in Mr. McMillan's comments, and I don't know if I've made a poor assumption under the TDRV. What is the term?
Yeah, the TRIVID.
Yeah, TRIVID. Whether certain.
I think that's like, no, I'm not sure.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, can you hear me now? It is actually working. Good Lord. Sorry.
Oh, we can do it.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. Mand.
Mr. McMillan cited a lot of the natural resources bylaws and things like that, and I was unsure, and I apologize for that, whether or not these regulations apply in the TRIVID, or are they superseded by the TRIVID? What would you say? Maybe I'll ask the chairman. his opinion on that.
I can only say that when I reviewed the permit itself, so the permit is the guiding document, and it specifically says that there is an assumption that the development complies with what was then, again, everyone keeps referring to 205-70, no, 205-72, doesn't exist anymore. But if you go to but if you look at the permit specifically says that disruption of existing site features has been kept to a minimum per the master plan and project site design, while accepting that disruption is necessary within development areas. The remainder of the project is undeveloped. So essentially what it said was it is presumed that disruption within the development use areas is acceptable in exchange for the fact that we have preserved more areas outside, and that is deemed to be consistent with the natural features conservation portion of our bylaw. That's what it says in the permit. I have not done a complete comparison.
Right.
So what I would say to some degree is that the permit says that you can do this, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's completely superseded, that it completely supersedes the remainder of our bylaw.
Right. That's probably as close as we're going to get at this moment. I will say that I've always tried to urge Red Brook to have more trees on those lots, at least 4, and that some of the other aspects he was talking about in terms of retaining more wooded area, especially in the backs of these lots, would be, I think, in keeping with the spirit of Makepeace and Red Brook's overall mission, the way that they were established in general. And I'd like to find a way to see that happen to any large degree, though I understand as well that they've contributed to preserving a lot of priority habitat and species areas, and but the more they can do, the better, as far as I'm concerned.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? I'm just going to add my final 2 cents into this, which is I understand that the layouts of the roads for this particular use area and the residences are designed to try and comport with some of the other requirements, which are to minimize disruption in terms of earth moval and contours, and also to deal with the natural habitat. That being said, of course, I will echo Mr. Mann's sentiments, which is to the extent that we can create as much buffer as conceivably possible, and maybe that means even in some of these lots, maybe just putting in no-cut areas that say, look, you're getting a part of your lot is wooded, and you're going to have to keep it that way.
So can I ask, ask a question to this board? I believe our rear yard setback is 25 feet. So in some use areas, when we have tried specifically where we're near resource areas, what we ended up doing is making the lot depth smaller and asking for a waiver on the rear yard setback to do just that. That is an alternative too. I'm not saying it's the only alternative, but what that allows is that it ensures an additional, I'm not saying we're going to make it a 0 setback and build the house all the way to the back of the property line. But by reducing that setback requirement, just allows that building to fit on less of a lot. Actually, no, I'm saying it wrong. You're essentially guaranteeing yourself more of a buffer. So instead of, if the lot depth is 110 feet, but we have 25 feet of rear yard setback, if we reduce that to say 10 feet, you're now all of a sudden gaining 15 feet. That's just one way in perpetuity to ensure that. So if you guys are open to that, we can look at all of those lots that are closest to, not only pull them back a little bit if we can based on topography, but also minimize the setback, which again, just shrinks your development footprint.
That would certainly be something that I think that the neighbors would appreciate your looking at.
Okay.
So with that, again, this will stay open. And do I have a motion to continue this again to the next meeting, the 10th?
June 10th.
June 10th.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I appreciate it. I appreciate your staying late and going through all of these proposals. I'm sure we'll be seeing many of you again at the next meeting. For those who cannot attend, obviously, online has its challenges, but that's something we can do. And anyone who wants to submit comments in writing, as I said, we do get everything, and we read and consider everything in advance. So thank you all very much. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? All in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you.